Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Sodbusters Metal Detecting live stream. We're going to have us a good show tonight. We've got a special guest here that's going to be discussing some research tips for us, some pretty interesting stuff that I've never thought about and that I need to learn. So I think that this is going to really be a game changer. And as a matter of fact, that's the name of our show tonight. It's a game changer. Well, I can't even think of it right now, but metal detecting game changer. Anyway, you guys, let me get my comments opened up here. Okay, well, we got some people that jumped in here in the last couple of minutes. Ambient Girl Diggs, how you doing? It's good to see you here. We're going to have Dan on here. Hello, David Alfonsetti. Alfonsetti. Good to see you here. PA Relics Hunter, good to see you. Olin Borden. All right, we got Brian DeMario. You guys, Red Dirt Treasure Hunters. All right, man, it's good to see you guys in here. So like I say, we're going to have us a good show with a special guest that I'll be introducing here in just a minute. And Dan should be with us a little bit later. He's running a little bit late. He had a quick errand he had to run. But you guys, if you have any questions later on in the show, when you see Dan show up, he will be able to chat with you later on. So if you have questions for him, you can send him a chat. Anyhow, I've got a couple of quick announcements to make. Let me see if I can share my screen for you here. Get this going here. Share screen. We're going to go to Chrome tab. And, all right, I'm going to go to this one here. Whoops, that's the wrong one, I think. All right, here we go. All right, you guys, from February 16th to February 28th, the Equinox MINELAB is having a promotion right now. So you can get a hold of Dan Willis. You'll see that on the screen there. Get a hold of Dan Willis before the 28th of February, because that's when this promotion ends. But you're going to get a free Profine 35 pinpointer with this metal detector here. And recently, all of the pretty much all the manufacturers are raising their prices. So right now the Equinox is running $999. But that Profine 35 is a good pinpointer. So if you're interested, you're looking for a Equinox 800, this is a promotion that you'll want to jump on right here. So, all right. And then let's see here. Obviously, Outlaw Metal Detectors is Dan Willis. And so you can find your metal detecting products right there on outlawmetaldetectors.com. So tell them that Sodbusters Metal Detecting sent you. All right, you guys. Let's see here. We've got some Sodbusters Metal Detecting merch. You'll see that down below the video here. And you can go to the store there and take a look at the products that we have there. We got shirts and hoodies, coffee cups, t-shirts, whatever your preference there. So feel free to come take a look. All right, you guys, that's pretty much it for what I have right now. Like I say, Dan should be in a little bit, hopefully. And if you have any questions for him, feel free to hit him up in the chat. Otherwise, you can send those questions to me. Also, if you want to contact me, my email address is sodbustersmetaldetecting@gmail.com. Good to see you guys here. Thank you all. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys coming and visiting with me each week here as we do these live streams. All right, you guys. Anyway, we're gonna introduce our special guest here this evening, and this is Professor. Well, I'm gonna bring him on here. I'm going to add them to string. Well, let me see. I got to stop my live here. There we go. There's Professor Wayne Aguiar.
Nice.
Did I pronounce that correct, Wayne?
Larry, you're right on it. No one ever says it right. So thank you. You did a great job.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you here, Wayne. Yeah, we got an exciting show. Wayne is going to be talking to us about research. And so he's got a PowerPoint for us. And I believe that we also have a trivia game later on, don't we, Wayne?
That'll probably, we'll see how we're doing for time at the end.
Okay.
Full agenda for him.
Sounds good.
If we have time, we can do the trivia. But
okay.
I don't want to waste their time because I know I appreciate it, guys. Everybody, ladies, gentlemen, anyone that's here tonight, thank you. I can't see you all, by the way. Larry can tell you that. I'm on the other end of this screen, but I can't see your pictures. So you guys are looking at me. I have no idea what you're looking at. So Larry, am I in focus?
You look good. You look good. Wayne, you almost look as good as me. I'll tell you that.
No one could ever do that, Larry. No one could do that. But
I'm just kidding you, buddy.
Larry, the funny thing is, you know what happened. We did that little dry run, and I wore green. I made sure not to wear green today. So I work at the University of Bridgeport. A shout out to UB, but our color's purple, so I'm wearing purple in support of them today because I got a lot of friends out there that might be visiting, and I wore my UB purple, so that's the reason for the purple.
Awesome.
All right, you ready to roll, my friend?
You bet, you guys. You just feel free to hit that invite button and invite your prospectors and your metal detecting buddies, because this show here is going to give you some information that's going to really change things in how you research places to metal detect so you can find more treasures in the upcoming years. So feel free to invite, and please stay till the end because there's going to be some good information here that you don't want to miss. So, all right, Wayne, it's all yours, buddy.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm assuming that my screen changed. If it changed, then we're good.
Well, I'm going to bring up your PowerPoint for you right here. There you go. I see your picture.
All right. That's a good sign. All right, guys. Can you see the video too, the live video? So we're good?
We've got you and the PowerPoint.
All right. The focus is on the PowerPoint, not on me. All right. Thank you again, Larry. Thank you. Ambient Girl Diggs. Thank you. Last week was my first dry run at this, guys. This is my first time last week. So it's an honor to be here, Larry. It's an honor to be here. Some of my buddies said, Wayne, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm doing Sodbusters. And he said, Sodbusters? Are you kidding? That guy's like awesome. He's got some really, really good tutorials. I guess you did MINELAB and Equinox and stuff like that. They loved your videos, Larry. So shout out to you. But people are here to find out some research. I'm not going to waste the corners. I'm just going to do an intro and get right into it for you guys. So I was just thinking about it. It says over 35 years. It's actually like 37 years that I've been detecting. On and off, there's been other things, a lot of different hobbies in there. Probably fishing's a big one, photography's a big one. But it always seems to come back to detecting. I have a passion for detecting. I really do. And I'm at a point in my career, I just have to share, why am I here? I'm here because I've done a lot of detecting, and I want to help other people at this point. Truly, I enjoy more right now going out with my friends and detecting, not about the find so much, but seeing them find stuff. And I don't, trust me, I don't mind finding something good too, but I'm not here to brag about my stuff. I'm here to showcase what some of these techniques can do for you. And I'm going to start off by whetting your appetite a little bit, because I'm going to show you some of the best of people that I've worked with over the years. And, collectively, I was just thinking about that because I was asking some of my friends, how long have you been detecting? And Frank said, 49 years. Oh, my God, 49 years. He must have started like a baby. You must have been really tiny. And then we got other guys 29, 30. I'm not 37, so I'm not even at the most experience. When I joined metal detecting, it was 37 years ago, I joined the club. And I joined with my dad. And our first detector was a shared detector. It was a white Dipro 6000. I still got it here, still pristine condition. It's more of a piece of history, museum piece, but it still works. And that's what got us started. But then what happened after that was just sharing a detector. That didn't last very long because we needed each to have our own. And things have progressed. Now I'm kind of like the detector collector. I've got all kinds of machines, but I'm not going to be focusing on machines tonight because I'm going to be focusing. There's a lot more people out there that know a lot more than I ever knew about machines. But I'm going to share with you some of my experiences with research and things that you may or may not know. I'm not saying anything magic to you, and I'm not promising you like a treasure at the end of the rainbow here. But I'm going to give you some things to improve your odds anyway, I hope. So again, I'm a member of a few clubs. I had the Nutmeg Club. Shout out to the Nutmeggers. Member of the Yankee Club, Yankee Territory Coin Shooters. Also the Empire Club up in New York. I put that patch on it. I just added that patch because that's like one of the things I'm most proud of too. It was the first one I ever seen that had metal detecting sport or metal detecting. So I thought that was really cool. And in my career, I've been involved a lot with scouts because I have two boys, and I'll mention them later. They went through like a scouting program, and I was active in that. And just recently, scouting adopted or had scouts go into their high adventure camp up in Betchel Reserve in West Virginia. And they were teaching them metal detecting, which is like so cool. So I'm trying to do the same thing over here in Connecticut and on a smaller scale, obviously. But I'm trying to get the scouts because it's the future of detecting right there. And I have to give a shout out to the Federation, FMDAC. Those people and the president in particular has been so supportive. Because just last year, they tried to shut down detecting on us in Connecticut, in our town. And I notified him and I told him what was going on. And he jumped on the phone with these people and he petitioned them. And he was really supportive. So I wanted to give them a shout out too, because they did a lot to preserve it. Because if our town went, chances are all of the towns will start saying you can't detect. So we've kind of fought that off. But let's hope that we don't have to do that again. So let's get going. Let me do some sharing with you. This is Professor Wayne's world. I don't know, Larry, is it showing behind me the computer rig?
No, I see it on the screen, but it doesn't. It's not a virtual background for you.
Yeah, do I just have like a normal background going?
Yes.
All right, because I took that off just to make sure. I wanted to devote all my energies to the PowerPoint and all the video for the bandwidth on this PowerPoint, because I didn't want you to. It didn't matter if my background was in focus or out of focus, or I had my computers. But what you're looking at is what I'm sitting in front of. And I got to thank my wife on this because I'm sitting at her scrapbook table. It got a little lame after a while being at the kitchen table with all this equipment. But each of these things, each of these pieces have a role in what I do. I call it my little NASA over here because I got a lot of stuff going on here. But let me just share with a little background here. A friend of mine who taught me some of these newer techniques, especially the newer ones in research, really did not want me teaching the advanced techniques. And I call it my research toolbox. And I'll be showing you that a little bit in a few slides. But what he was afraid of is that if I taught people this, then people are going to be like detecting his spots and in his backyard. So I had to give it some thought. And I'm not here to, I don't want anyone to worry about this. I'm not going to give up all of your secrets. It's like a magician, all right, that doesn't teach his tricks. But I'm going to share enough with you, and I'm going to give you a lot of pointers along the way that you'll be able to take this out, hopefully, and use some of this stuff to make your life a game changer. And I have some testimonials that we're going to be getting to. So again, like when he first told me this, he says, like, keep it low key. Most of the people I know that do some of these techniques, it's kind of like the hidden subject. Like people talk under their breath. The people that are doing some of these things, they don't advertise it. And they don't advertise it because it's a game changer. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. I'll let you guys decide at the end. So I got a disclaimer here, okay? People that know some of the advanced techniques that I'm going to be talking about, I'll show you. Often, as I said, prefer not to have them out in the open, okay? They want to keep it quiet. It's under the radar. No worries to you. I will not give away all of the details of your secrets. Anyone out there is more than capable of doing what I'm doing and what they're doing. You just got to invest the time. That's the biggest thing. And there's a lot of time involved to do that. My business, and I'm not here to advertise my business today. I'm here to tell you what I do. But I'm not. This isn't one of those like informational sessions. This is just to share some information with you. I forget what they call that. Info commercial, something like that.
Infomercial.
Infomercial. That's what it is. But my business is to provide education. I'm an educator, okay? You introduced me, they call me Professor Wayne, and I like that. It's better than Professor Aguiar. That makes me feel really old. So I like the Professor Wayne piece. But I've been doing it for as long as I've been detecting, actually, about 37 years. I've been in different universities throughout Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I've done a lot of different colleges. But my business right now, my professional is an educator. I'm an educator. I'm an infectious disease researcher is what I do. And you can see the parallels here because research in one area is not so different than research in another. So I know you have people here that maybe do detecting research. You might have prospector researchers. The people out there, it could be all different kinds of things that you're into. Research can apply to anything like that. It doesn't matter if it's just detecting. It could be anything. So some of the techniques I'm going to share with you are things that you can apply to just everyday life. I mean, it can work. So again, the people that I'm talking about, they're not inclined to give up those secrets. But there are people, and this is what came to me, was that there are people that really have no interest to do the research themselves. They just want to swing and they want to detect. So I thought of it and I looked around and I didn't see anyone offering this kind of service. And that was a service that I would do the research for you and provide you with the links and some of the tips and the treasure maps. And then you go out and do your thing and see if you can find stuff. And people said, Wayne, you can get paid to do that. And I said, that's pretty cool. So let me see. And then, it's just started. I'll be honest with you, all of you. I never thought of making this like a business type of thing, but the last couple of weeks it's just exploded. We put that Facebook group up. We went from my 2 members, which were my family, to I hope we're near 100 today, and I'm hoping at the end of today some of you will join us. And that Facebook group is devoted just to researching, game searching, researching. It's not a commercial site. I'm there not just to share my information, but I'm asking the members, I call them my crew. I'm asking those people to share as well. So that way, together, we put all our heads together and share knowledge. It's going to be an incredible group if we really take advantage of that and change this paradigm that people work all by themselves, okay? I really think a team or crew, as I use the pirate analogy, is the way to go. So here it is. I hope, is this working, the little game changer guy?
You bet.
All
It's
right,
there.
cool. It doesn't work when you do like PDFs, but when you do a PowerPoint, it kind of does do it for you. So let me just move one thing out of my screen so I can see it too. All right, the basis of my service is to save you time, increase your potential results, and from the Hunger Games, put the odds in your favor, okay? I cannot promise you treasure. I'm not here to promise you treasure. That's going to be up to you to find, okay? But I can give you some leads, or I can tell you what you can do to make your leads a little bit better. All right. So the original game changer and my mentor, all right, these people, they didn't want, they're very humble. And I respect humble people a lot because, I see some people that think they know it all and really nobody knows it all. These guys do know a lot, maybe not all, but they know a lot. And I asked them before I did this, can I share some of your finds with other people? And they were like really happy about that. So let me start off. I want to show you. I'm going to highlight a lot of different people. Again, this isn't about me. This is about using these techniques and what they can do for real people. And this person, again, names they want to go unknown. And also because they have a fortune in their houses right now of stuff that they found. And you'll see this in a second. That they don't, and I respect that. They don't want their name. They don't want their location said. But some of you out there will know these people that I'm talking about because you've either swung with them, you detected with them, or you might know them or recognize some of the finds. But here we go. Let me get started. Just go back once. I jumped too forward. All right. The other day, my friend told me, Wayne, I didn't have much to do because it's winter over here in Connecticut. And I just pulled out my drawers and I wanted to count like how many coppers I found over the years. And he counted over 400 coppers collected over the years by this guy, which to me is incredible. I can't imagine finding that many coppers in my career, but this guy does it. And how does he do it? He's been doing some of these techniques that I'm going to show you. Buttons, anyway, are my favorite. This is an assorted collection, and I know there's people that know more about buttons than I do for sure. But we got our dandy buttons, our Tomback buttons. They're absolutely my favorite. And you can see like the designs of them, they're absolutely gorgeous. And some people, they kind of look down on the lowly button, but I'm going to change your perspective on that in a couple of slides because these buttons, are not only valuable historically because they represent, you know, another era, another age, but they're also in turn and sometimes very rare and sometimes very collectible. So let me keep going. This is an assortment of buckles. I love these. And actually, one time when I was detecting with him, I got the best buckle of my life was with him. And he was so excited for me. And I thought that was such nice of him because he's found so many. He made me feel really good that I got one of these buckles that was really ornate, handmade design, awesome. But this is a normal find for this guy. Okay. Again, using these techniques. This is just, he opened the box one day. This is funny. There's two different guys I'm going to really highlight, and they have different, you know, approaches to how they display these finds. This guy's got it all over the place. Every drawer in his house. His wife's very tolerant of him. He's got it everywhere. And this is just a box of all sorted things that he had. And he just hasn't had time to sort them. He uses the winter to kind of catch up with that. But you can see the Crotal Bells, the horse tack, the assorted finds. Not everything, you know, necessarily extremely valuable, but historic. Absolutely. This is really cool stuff. I think so. This is his recent collection of buttons from, this is from 2021. These are some of his favorite buttons, and he just was laying them out because he's going to put them in a Riker box. I'll show you those in a second. But he's going to put these in a display. Because one sad thing is if you've got stuff just laying around inside your, in your drawers and stuff, and they're not being seen by other people, you know, that's not so cool. It's better to share it and show other people this. And these little ornate buttons here, I mean, a close-up of those are absolutely gorgeous. And, all right. Okay, so here we go. Another display of buckles that he has. It's really, really, really cool. This is something I hadn't seen anything like this. You know, I found some suspenders and pieces of suspenders, but the variety and the different types that he has here, just unbelievable. Really, totally unbelievable. I showed some of my friends that specialize in this, and they saw his collection and they just went, oh my God, I didn't realize they came in all that varieties. And I bet you some of you can recognize some of the things that are here. You might have them in your collections. And this is just, again, collected over the years that he's been doing it. It's really, really cool. All right, this is getting into my story that I wanted to share with you. Really famous in history was George Washington, you know, and his inaugural buttons. And you notice there's like several different varieties of inaugural buttons that are out there. And, you know, and some of you may have these. I mean, these are like bucket listers for sure. But if you look, you can see like the designs are incredibly beautiful, beautiful buttons. Yeah. So let me share a story with you. This button on the left, he actually found. And when he found this button, he posted it on Facebook. When he posted it on Facebook, that same day, he got a phone call from a Revolutionary War collector. And that Revolutionary War collector offered him $10,000 on the spot for this button. Wow. I don't know about you, but that's pretty cool. $10,000. Because this is a button, George Washington button, that I believe, I may not be accurate totally on this, but I believe there's only like 6 of these known to exist. So if you go back to your button collections, guys out there, gals out there, and you look and you see one of these, you hold on. You got a valuable find here. And the guy gave him $10,000. He actually had 2 of them. He kept one for himself, just for just to keep, and he sold the other one to this collector. And I guess there's 3 collectors that were bidding on this, and he did really well. So I researched it for him because that was kind of interesting to see more, because I didn't know, I'd never seen this button. Like, what's cool? Why is this button $10,000? Well, the fact that it was handmade is one, and the fact that it's rare is the other. But the other thing is, you look on the side here, and I know. Can you see my mouse, Larry? Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
It says 37,000.
Right.
That's how much one of these buttons went for in auction. And this is a little bit more pristine shape one. You can see his is a little toasted on the edges. And, you know, New England, unfortunately, the soil does toast our buttons a lot. But over here, what ended up happening is you see, I don't know if you can see this little thing here. You can see it on his. That's what's a dead giveaway. That's the unique feature. This is called a cap on it. It's just a capped George Washington. And again, we didn't have pictures of the reverse side, but nothing special on the reverse spot. This front side with that little cap is very, very valuable. A funny story is, when I used to go detecting, I go detecting with my friends. If we go to a colonial site, that little cap is very, very valuable. A funny story is, I don't know what happened there. It's like it's like reverberation. Larry, can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I went into the chat on YouTube. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. Can you mute me? Can you mute me on your end for a second?
Yeah. Let me see here. Let me
just for a second. I got to deal with a little bit of an emergency.
Okay. Yeah,
Can
go
you do
ahead.
that? All right, thank you. Anne
Let's
Marie?
see here.
Yes.
I got to find the mute. Let me get back to. Yeah. Okay. He'll be back in just a second. Ambient Girl Digs. Nancy, I just went in there to YouTube and I added you as a moderator, if that's okay.
Hey, Larry, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay, we got you.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I had to just take care of a quick little emergency. Guys,
okay.
I got 2 Labrador puppies that run around, and I had to make sure that they were okay. So I apologize for that.
Not a problem.
All right, so let's get back here. Anyway, the story was I go with my friends. They're not into buttons; they're into coins. That's what they prefer, and I get that. I mean, why not? But they used to give me all their buttons. And then what happened was I showed them this button, this whole story. I told them the story. No one gives me buttons anymore because it's kind of funny. They just keep their buttons. So I respect that. And I love buttons. And you're going to see why as we go. All right. So now for a different kind of different style game changers. You're going to see the differences here. My first friend is into the game changing aspect to do historic things. Relics. He lives the woods. And, I can tell you stories about that because I joined him out there. It's quite a few tales to tell. But this other gentleman, he has a totally different style. So I'll show you. Let me show you. He's a different game changer. This is the Silvers 2021 record silver finds. This is a record for him.
That's beautiful.
189 silvers that he took out using these techniques. So I don't know about you, but I'm like looking at this. This is like amazed. This is just amazed. And one of the things is he's meticulous with his display. So these Riker boxes, actually, he sells the Riker box. I bought a few from him, and he's very reasonable. But he lays this stuff out, and I'll show you some other examples as we go. And they are actually pieces of artwork. I asked if I could take a picture of it, and I actually had to ask him first before I could move the box because the coins were laid out by hand. They're not stuck in this. It's just laying on cotton. And I was afraid that I was going to disturb the order for him. So I let him move it around. But I asked him if I could take a picture. It's not the greatest picture, but I think you get the idea what he's got here. I went to his house one day. A little bit of a story. You see these detector coils over there. Another buddy of mine who I'll talk about later is he told me that this guy had some coils for sale and a sunray pinpointer and some coils. And I had just picked up a used DFX because I just wanted to mess around with it because I thought it was kind of cool. So, I only had the standard coil, and this guy had the sniper and the big. Actually, the reason I went is because he had a 15-inch coil. I really wanted that. I just thought that would be really cool. So I went there, and the kind of guy he is, this is his guy. He's not only humble, he's really nice, and he's kind, and he's honest. And he for one price, an incredible price, he gave me like the big coil, the extra sniper coil, and the regular coil as a backup. He had actually worn the ears off of the regular coil. He just threw it in because he had worn the ears off to nothing using this. And this was his standard machine for a long time. And then he threw in the sunray, which I never even heard of before. And this was just so kind. But then he said, "You want to see my basement? And you want to see some of my stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, are you kidding? Absolutely." So my friend and I went down to his basement. And I'm going to tell you this. 2 hours later, I left his basement in awe. My jaw was dropped. And when I was down there, I told him, "Can I just take some pictures? Because if I don't take pictures, no one is ever going to believe what I saw." And he said, "Yeah, thank you. I don't have that many people come over. I'm cool with that." So I was taking pictures. He's telling me the stories behind those things. And I'm going to show you now in a series of slides some of the pictures that he has in his collection. I mean, I conservatively want to say 500,000, if not more, worth of finds in his basement. And the real valuable ones, he's got locked in a huge safe in his basement. But a lot of this is just on display. So again, he wanted anonymity. He didn't want me to talk about his name, where he's from. He doesn't want people knocking on his door to see the collection. And he definitely doesn't want someone knocking on his door to steal it. But this notebook that he has here is only one of several. And it's a 3-inch binder notebook. And it's filled from cover to cover with all the coins he's found over the years. And he hasn't even been detecting as long as the first gentleman. I want to say 20 years. The other guy's over 30 or 40. But he's collected so many different coins that he's actually got them laid out in dates. Some of you probably bought those like blue coin books they used to sell. I don't remember the name, but they were like blue books, and you can put all the different coins in order by date. I think you guys might know, or ladies may know what I'm talking about. But he made his own. So all of these are labeled out and left in order by date. So you see, occasionally you'll see like one up here, like it's got a missing. So that's probably some key date that is, it's still on his bucket list to find. But can you imagine like several of these notebooks filled all silver? This is just incredible. These are some examples and how he labeled them out. And he, like I said, meticulous. He has cleaned the coins. He doesn't leave them in the natural state. He does clean them, and that's kind of an art too. And like I said, this guy is meticulous in what he does. Buttons too. I just threw this in because this is just FYI for you guys out there. Another reason why I love buttons is that you can use buttons to date your site. Finding different buttons, and a lot of the sites that we're talking about here that we found are sites that are really been untouched, probably for a couple hundred years even. And when you get there, I mean, there's no sign, like you drive down the street and you see this old house and it's got that circa 1700, circa 1800 on it, and you kind of know what you're dealing with. When you're doing some of the stuff that I'm going to show you is we don't know what you're dealing with because there's nothing there. So when you find nails, and in fact, shout out to nails. I love nails, especially the handmade ones. They're a nuisance because the signals are really good. But when you get a few of those, it's actually not a bad thing because you can use those to date it as well. But buttons, buttons, I love them anyway. But when you find a button and you can use it to date, that's cool. Like, and you get the colonial buttons. I love their designs. The Tombacks, they're like beautiful. I've got a button factory and a mill that's only maybe a couple miles from me. A little story later if you have time. Over here, the military buttons down on the bottom. I just think those are so special because they represent, people that served and that's, committed their life to this and maybe gave their life for this. And finding these kind of buttons, they're a special consideration. There's always on my bucket list. All right, so more of the silver finds he had, $50, you name it, he's got them all. And some of these quite rare. He's also found things that I thought was kind of cool. He's found a lot of what they call like simulations or what do they call that? Artificials. They're not real. They're what is that? Replicas.
Yeah,
They're fakes. They're just replicas. And you find those occasionally. And when you test them for silver, they're not, but they're really good replicas. Okay, no, it's not just coins. This guy's into all kinds of stuff. So he's got guns, toy guns mostly. He's found a couple of real guns. When you find a real gun around here, you normally need to contact the police because you need to tell them because this could have been used in a crime. So we work with the police as well here. But he's got a couple guns that he never turned into the police because they're so old that if it was a crime, it would have been like 300 years ago. So it's like, it's not going to mean anything. But as a collectible piece, like a Derringer, a little pocket gun, those things are pretty cool. Knives. Pocket knives. I mean, they look like toast right now. I get that, but you got to realize that some of these are probably 100, 200 years old. So again, collectible. All this stuff is collectible. I mean, there's going to be somebody out there that likes it, and you can see how neat he is. Like he just puts everything in its place. It was just like his place is immaculate. It's like the ultimate man cave. All right, and this is he ran out of space. Okay. So then he started taking out his closets. So what he did was he had a big closet. So he took the closet out. And because like over the years, you collect a lot of these toy cars, whether it could be in the beach, it could be anywhere you can get them. But then he started having a nice collection. And he's also into cars. What I didn't tell you is that he's also, what do they call that? The person that redoes cars. What's that? Help me out here, Larry. Refurbish cars. Yeah. Huh? He fixes them and he's into vans. That's what he does. And he's got like 50 trophies in his basement, if not more, of all the things that he's he's brought back to life. So he likes cars, is what I'm trying to say. He really likes cars. He also gets some like these really old toys. And I just want to point out, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
This it's pointing at this little horse, and it may not be like too exciting to many of you, but that horse is probably a couple hundred years old. It's an antique cast iron horse, and the story about that is he found that in a park. And what's amazing is every time he goes to the park, he finds another piece of that horse. So he's like this is at the stage he was at now, but he's found the rider to the horse. He's found like the legs, and he's starting to assemble it. And the cool thing is they're from the same park. but they're from different areas of the park. So something has happened with this toy that it got dispersed like throughout this little area. And he just likes to go back, even though it's been hit pretty hard. He likes to go back because he keeps finding these pieces. And someday he's going to have the whole horse. And I think that'd be kind of cool. I think he's probably wishing this soldier here had a head on him, but he hasn't found that one yet. All sorts of things. Again, religious artifacts. I can tell you that he's got display boxes full of religious artifacts that he's accumulated over the years. Again, it depends on the site, the location. That makes a difference in what kinds of stuff you're finding. If it's a site that was historically religious or had a lot of activities going on, congregational type of activities, you tend to find stuff that's religious. One of my favorites, and it's kind of not a showcase, I wish I had taken a better picture, are all the thimbles that he's found, the silver thimbles. And he's an expert at remaking the thimbles, like getting it back, the thimble like in a nice round shape, because a lot of times they get flattened and you can't make much out of them. But he's it's like masterful. Again, he's a machinist. He's a tool maker, so he's really good at doing that. And thimbles are really kind of cool. And the funny thing is with thimbles is that you find a lot of them in the fields. So I think of thimbles like in sewing. But I had researched that a little bit, just to be, why so many thimbles in the fields? And they said actually that when the people used to harvest, sometimes they used to wear thimbles on their fingers so they wouldn't get their fingers all cut up when they were harvesting. So it kind of explains a lot of times why you might find so many thimbles out in some of these fields. It's kind of cool. So they're always special when we get some of these. They're like really cool. Again, this is his collection of buckles. Again, you've seen buckles before, and so it's nothing different, but just the way he displays it, I think, is so artistic. He's got the lighting just perfect to highlight them. The next slide is actually one of my favorites, and I'm a Game of Thrones fan. I don't know if anybody out there likes that, but I like that show. And if you look at it down in the bottom left corner, if you can see my mouse, it looked like a dragon to me, like this little brooch or whatever. That was way before Game of Thrones was ever thought of, but I just think that the design is just like so incredible. But I've looked at these pictures 100 times, and every time I look at the things that he has, it still excites me. So I'm hoping you out there you're enjoying his collection. It's really remarkable, and he has a little bit of everything. I mean, seriously, he has keys, locks, trinkets. Some modern. Not everything is old. Sometimes you'll get modern stuff because people visit these old sites sometimes, and even though it might have been a couple 100 years old, you never know what you're going to find. That's the beauty of this hobby. You never know. Again, assorted things. I don't want to bore you with repeated pictures of the same thing. There's a few things that's kind of cool, like this tomahawk. This I thought was kind of neat. You don't see that every day. Hammers you don't see every day, but this toy back here is intriguing to me because it looks like a World War I bomb. Like if you ever seen like some of the pictures of the bombers in World War I, they used to just take the bomb and drop it off the side of the airplane. That's what it looked like. But I guess in today's words, it was more like a game of Jarks or something that we would play. But I just thought that was an intriguing find. I thought that was really cool. You never know what you're going to find. Again, these are the Riker boxes. Again, this is just a collection this isn't from last year. This is just a previous year that he keeps matted and informed. You can see the coinage that's here. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's a lot different than the coppers. I showed you like the 400 coppers my other friend found. Those generally are toasted here, and it's just toasted because of the ground conditions are not really good. But silver comes out so beautiful. Sometimes it might be tarnished or black, but it comes out usually very, very beautiful. And these just happen to be in just pristine shape. When you get this, I'm not a grader, so I can't tell you what grade these are, but these are beautiful. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. And again, these are actually my favorite. They're not silver, but they're one of my favorites because I love finding these. Is the Indian head pennies. They're just so cool. Like when you get the fatties and you get that green patina on them, it's like something like unbelievable. And he's just got it highlighted in the middle with that little 2-cent piece. And again, assorted. And then these are more toasted. Again, when you start different locations, you're going to find this kind of stuff. It is going to get toasted. This is on my bucket list still, the Fujio scent in the middle. Some of you guys, ladies might have recognized that with the rings around the edge. That's the reason he put it in the middle, because that's kind of a special coin. A lot of the buffaloes, those tend to be dateless buffaloes. It's hard to find a lot of times buffaloes in good shape. They tend to wear pretty quickly. But a lot of the large scents, the matrons and stuff, and all these stuff that he's got going is pretty cool. This cut coin, I have a story about that afterwards. Remind me if I forget. I have a story about this cut coin because they used to, that was still coinage. They cut it in half, and you get twice as much for your money. Now, this one, I brought this up because it illustrates a few different things. One is his most favorite find. Like if you ask him, what is your most favorite find? He would tell you this watch right here. This is a solid gold watch that he pulled up in a permission that was actually next to a stone wall, if the story is correct. Was that he was just, for the heck of it, was walking along the stone wall on this permission, and he had a really solid hit. And he dug it up, and it was in pristine condition considering the age. I mean, it's a colonial era type watch, but when he investigated it, it was actually pure gold, and it's pretty hefty. I've actually had the good fortune. He actually let me hold it. This is like the coolest thing. I'll show you another thing. It's just incredible. And then he's got that medallion in the middle, which is like crazy beautiful. I mean, huge piece of gold. But what I wanted to point out, and because some of you guys might be into this, or ladies might be into this, and I'm into it, is Native American points, like arrowheads. He has he has another collection. This is just a sample, but he put these here just to dress this up a little bit. And one of the things is he finds the arrowheads when all of us, if you're in a field and you're in the right area, you can find arrowheads. And he knows that I am so into arrowheads. Like my son and I, that's the kind of a hobby. We want to do that. And I don't want to digress too much, but when you find arrowheads, it's like really, really cool. So he had them on display. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then all this is all conversation. Like I asked him, can I write a book about you someday? Because you got so many stories, all these finds. And I didn't mention this, but this guy is remarkable because he has what I believe to be a photographic memory, because he can tell you almost all his finds. I brought that up to him the other day, and I said, you have a photographic memory, don't you? And he was just kind of like, he's very reserved. He said, no, I just remember. He has a photographic memory because he can tell you everything that he found, where he found it, and the story behind it. And if you've seen what he's found, there's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of stories and a lot of memories in there. This is I know, Ambient Girl, if you're out there, you're drooling over this one right now, because I know this is one of your favorites. They're one of my favorites too. These are Crotal Bells, all sizes, shapes. They clean up really well. And someone asked me, like, how do you clean them up? I didn't know either. And my buddy just said, just warm soap and water, and they clean up really, really well. I don't like, this isn't talking about me, but I found one recently that I am so thrilled with. And the reason that I'm thrilled with, like these Crotal Bells or sleigh bells, is that I found it in a place that everyone told me you're not going to find anything. But I researched it. And when I researched it, I knew there was an area that maybe hadn't been hit. And that was the first area I went to. And when I went to that area, my first find was a Crotal Bell. But this Crotal Bell, it wasn't perfect. It's not in no way, it's not like a collector piece that way. But what was special to me is that it still had the leather tongue inside of the that little loop there.
Oh,
and
wow.
it had withered from age to nothing but just like a shriveled piece of leather. But I've treated that so precious, that because to me that represents the history behind that. And also I just think it's really cool. And I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't want to ruin it. So I called my friend and I said, I got this Crotal Bell. I'm really happy. And he was happy for me. He says, you don't find them with the leather very often. And when it is, it's usually toasted. But he said, just warm soapy water. And, I'm not highlighting my stuff, but it came out really cool. I have it in a little mason jar because that's like how I stored it. But these other bells that he has, the Continental bells or whatever they're called, these are just incredible. Like spigots that are ornate. You can tell that they're like handmade and they're really kind of cool. Again, ox knobs, my all-time favorite too. We have a lot of ox in here in the history of here in New England, because they were like the bulldozers in the past, and they all wore these knobs on their horns to protect themselves from getting injured or injuring other animals, and also injuring people. So you get them in all shapes and sizes. The first time I found one, I didn't know what it was. It's like, this is a long time ago. I found it and I was like, oh, that's cool. It rang up really solid. And I brought it to my friend. I said, what do you think? He says, that's an ox knob. He just like, that's an ox knob. It's like, no big deal. For me, I was like, wow, this is really cool. The down at the bottom here, this is the Derringer, one of the Derringers he found. I don't know if this is the toy one. He's got one. It's a Derringer, but it's actually a lighter, and it still works. You got it working, where you just flip the trigger and the light comes off the end. But this might be the real one. I'm not sure. He's got a handheld one here. It's kind of like, I don't know if you can see in the bottom. That's a handheld. He's got badges and all kinds of stuff. You name it. Like these huge bullets. All right. Again, another aspect of the Crotal Bell shelf, and then some unusual things here, some more bells.
Those that one you just pointed to in the back left corner there,
This one?
that is actually for Hames. That's called a Hames knob.
Oh, okay.
That goes the draft horses would wear that collar around their neck, and the Hames would go. That was a Hames knob that went up top there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Larry. See, I knew you're the man. I didn't think it was an ox knob. Otherwise, it was a really big ox knob. So that explains it. You call it Hames? Is that what it was?
Hames, Hames.
Nice, nice. See, we learn something every day. Like I said, nobody knows everything. And that name it rang a bell, but I couldn't place it. So thank you so much. I would have forgotten to say that. Thank you. That's really cool. Well, and you just reminded me of something else too, and I just lost the thought. But I know what it was. When I found the Crotal Bell, the other thing that was cool besides that little piece of leather was that it had that little ringer in it, the little clicker in it. So I thought that was like cool. That was really cool. All right, this is not something you would think was collectible, but my buddy's been out there so many years doing this. This is the second guy now that you come across a lot of junk. You know, even in remote sites, you come across a lot of junk. So he started actually saving some of the junk, and he made a collection. So he's got a license plate collection. You notice some of the dates here, 62, 63. You know, he's collecting all the different dates, 56, when they used to have these license tags. So he just put it together in such a beautiful display that it's awesome, really awesome. I mentioned to you before about his trophies. They're out of focus because this is what I was taking a picture of. But if you look in the back, all these shiny things here, these are all the trophies that he's won. And the term is restoration. It was going to drive me crazy if I can think of it. He restores vans, like classic vans. He restores them. And I spent another hour in his garage looking at his restored vans, which was kind of crazy. These are just signage things that he found. Everyone out there knows if you're detecting, you never know what you're going to get. And some of these things are just kind of cool, especially when there's writing on it, because now when there's writing, it gives you a basis to like maybe research it. And it'll help you in finding out what it was or what it was used for. Some of these things may not be known what it was. You have to imagine what it might have been used for. But a collection of all kinds of things. You can imagine the signal on some of these. These are massive. And he pretty much digs everything, by the way, because he's found, and many of you know the same thing, if you don't dig it, you don't know. And right. He's all metal mode for sure, and digging everything. This is just like a little sampling of what he has. I mean, there's a lot more. He's got like trays and trays of silverware. This is just, he likes the marbles. I have to admit, I like the marbles too. They're not going to ring on you. So it's just, again, if you're just looking down and as you're walking, you find them. Well, we tend to get a few down here on the beach, old beaches. I don't know if the kids used to play in the sand or what, but we used to find a lot of these down on beaches here. Those are beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. All right. I promised some shout outs here. So these are assorted shout outs and some bucket listers. This is my new friend. I just met him a few weeks ago. And actually, I met him because I was going to buy a detector from him. And as a long story short, I ended up not buying the detector because my friend told me, Wayne, you got enough detectors. You got one for every day of the week. Do you really need another detector? But it was a great deal. And I like good deals. And he was an honest man. And this is a very honest man. His name's Matt. And he's a really honest man. And I gave him some help. He lives in an area where it's very old. He lives very close to a Civil War area, obviously, if you're looking what he's holding here. And he's a pretty happy camper right now. But I helped him out because he was honest with me, and I repay honesty with treating people well. So we became friends. And, I'd love to have him up here in New England to help with me here. And I'm hoping to go down with him. He's got a 180-acre battlefield site on private land that he's got permission to. And he found some really cool stuff. And I told him, people aren't going to believe me, like my techniques help people. Would you write me a testimonial? He said, in a heartbeat. And this is what he just sent me. This is February 10th, okay? A huge thank you to Wayne and his help in guiding me directly to a beautiful foundation hidden out of sight for over a century. Game changer believer, Matt K. Matt, shout out to you. And his 9-year-old son, Austin. Austin has got his first detector, and he found his first colonial copper, I believe he told me. So shout out to him. Can you imagine what this little kid's going to find in his career? I'm at the tail end of my career trying to help other people find stuff and carry this on. This kid is just starting, and he's got a great mentor there in his dad. So Matt, if you're listening out here, and Austin, if you're listening, shout out to you guys. I'm actually I hope Austin's probably in bed now, so I can say this. This week I went with two friends of mine, and we did a site that they had researched. I didn't research. They had researched. And it turns out to be a World War II training site, strafing site. Planes used to fly over and shoot and practice shooting targets. And they found the location, and we went, and we found these 50 caliber bullets. Like, have you ever seen a 50 caliber bullet? It fits in the palm of your hand. It's a huge bullet. And we got there, and my friends invited me, and that was nice of them to do that. And we found them, and we started pulling these babies out like crazy. It was like picking cherries. And I have a lot of respect for these two guys, and I'll highlight them in a little bit too. But these guys, they stopped digging them, and they said, we're going to leave some for the club and for the other guys and the other people. We've got enough. We don't need any more. And I really respected that, because some people would have just kept digging them. It was like, I swear to God, almost everywhere you look, they were there. So they had pegged the spot perfectly. Well, this young man and his wife, not his wife, it was probably his mom, were walking down the path, and they saw us, and they went, "What are you doing?" So this is just like ambassadors of the hobby, right? So we started a conversation with him, and we showed him some of the bullets. So I had one, my buddy had one, and we gave it to him, and he was like so thrilled, because he had this, like, because he collected that kind of stuff, and he was really happy. So back to Austin here and Matt. I mentioned to Matt, because when we find stuff, we go back and forth, we text sign. And I said, I found these buttons. I found these bullets, these 50 calibers. So you want one? Just because you don't see them every day. And he said, no, I got my share of mini balls down here, and I'm not interested. But then he said, oh, my son might want it. So I said, okay, so I'm going to mail it to him. He gave me his son's mailing address, because it's going to come in the mail for him. And he likes all things military and bullets. So I've researched it a little bit. I got a little history on it, a picture of the plane that was flying, not the plane that shot this bullet, but the planes that did fly, the World War II planes, which were beasts. And I got a couple of really good sample bullets for him. So I can't wait to mail it to him. It's been so busy, I haven't had a chance. This weekend is my deal. This is my other buddy, Cliff. I told him I was going to give him a shout out, because he found something. I'm envious. I'm going to be telling you the truth. I am envious. But he and his other buddy, have become my buddies. And they're fairly new to the hobby. They haven't been doing it for very long. And they found some like incredible stuff. They found bucket listers that people spend their whole career and never find. So I have to encourage them sometimes and just say, have patience. You're going to find stuff. Like, one of my friends is still looking for his first copper. And I said, it's going to happen. Trust me, it's going to happen. You just got to keep swinging, and I'll help you out. So I took him aside. We actually went out for pizza one day, and I took him aside, and I said, okay, I'll show you some stuff and see if this helps you. So I don't like to go alone anymore. Okay. I'm at a point, like, I like to go with people. I don't lone wolf it at all. I like to have people with me, and I like to have, people finding stuff with me too. So I went with him. I brought him somewhere. It was the first time I detected. I had scouted it before. I knew it was in a good location, and I thought that had some promise. So I wanted to bring him. The other guy, Jerry, couldn't come that day. So Cliff came with me. So we're detecting the hole. It was obviously had been hit pretty hard, because there was metal left inside the foundation, and there was a lot of evidence that people had been there. So I wasn't real optimistic that the hole was going to produce. So I said to him, let's kind of like spread out. We'll cover more ground and see what we can find. Well, he has like a natural talent too, like an instinct. So he went out into the woods, and he gave me a shout, and he said, Wayne, I got something. So I was really happy, because he was pretty far away from me. So I went over, and he pulled out one of these things that's in his hand, and I do a blow up of it. He found an inkwell, like a really old late 1800s inkwell. It was really messed up at the time, but he dug a little bit next to it, and he found another one. And I'm like, oh, I'm cringing. I said, why didn't I just detect next to you? These are so beautiful. So I asked him if he would just hold them for me. This is after they've been cleaned up. He cleaned them up. They didn't look so nice when they first came out. They were all full of dirt and everything, and the cover's broken off. But isn't that beautiful? I mean, this is like and the history behind this. This is an inkwell, and this is how they wrote. So how in the hell did it get in the middle of the woods in nowhere land? Like, how did it get there? And then what he found, and I give him full credit for this, is that he found what he believes might be the preliminary house site for that foundation. And a lot of people may not know this. And if you don't, that's cool if you learn something. Even if you just get one pearl today, if I tell you all the stuff you already know, I'm sorry. But if I give you one pearl, then it's worth it. And that is when they were building these houses, these colonial houses, right? They had to have a place to live. And it wasn't a permanent residence, usually wood. It wasn't, something that they were going to invest a lot of time in because they were building their main house and they had to live there for a while. So I think he found the area which was that preliminary house. It was where they inhabited, and they obviously had everyday activities. And he found this, and he found the two of them, and he also found some other stuff. I did find a really cool, like 3-pronged fork, pewter fork. I get pretty excited about those too. So we knew that there was some house activity there, and it was really cool. So shout out, Cliff. If I hope you're out there because you deserve it. All right, this is something that he's not here because he's in Florida. I know you got a bunch of people in Florida for that big hunt going on down there. But I just want to say, Joe, thanks for letting me hold your belt plate. I have not found one of these. It's on my bucket list still. But in Connecticut, we don't have a lot of Civil War stuff. That's true. I got my first Civil War button, and I was like so thrilled. But Joe found this in Connecticut, actually, near the New York border. And he's had this published. It's been in books. It's been advertised quite a bit because it was a very unique and very special find. And he brought it one day to one of our hunts, and he let me hold it. And just when I held that, I just thought back, Civil War. Who wore this? You imagine, like, this is incredible find.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I showed you a lot of stuff. All right. Hopefully you're still awake. Hopefully you guys are still listening and no one shot off to another live stream, because I want to share with you now why and how these things were found. Okay. So let's get into that. I'm curious to know. Yeah. Some people might be skeptical. Is this real? Like, is this like fake or is this real? It's real. So what's the secret? Okay. What's the secret to these finds? I narrow it down to 3 major things. Okay. Research, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about. Location, and I think that makes a huge difference. Okay. Location always makes a difference. The harder you have to work, this is just my saying, okay. The harder you have to work for something, usually the better off you're going to be. Because if it's easily accessible to anybody, then it's easily accessible to anybody. So chances are it's going to be hit. It kind of makes me laugh a little bit when people drive by and they see like an old house and they stop and they detect it and they're not finding stuff, or they're finding, junk or stuff that other people left, but not really good stuff. But they say, well, it's a really old, it said circa 1700, 1800s. Yeah, but, it's right in the main street. Everyone drives by this all the time. So you probably know it's been hit a million times. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit lean. So you're going to have to work for these locations. If there's time, I'll tell you a story about how my first buddy works for his location. He works so hard for those locations that usually, he's like me, we're getting older. And it takes like a day, if not 2 days, to recover from one of his adventures. And I'm talking about adventures, okay? I'll tell you the story afterwards at some time. I know you're more interested now to see what's the secret here. And then the last thing is, I think it's just a bit of luck. Quite honestly, you got to be lucky. That goes with it. You got to put your coil over it. If you don't put your coil over it, you're not going to find it.
That's
so
right.
luck is involved. Now you notice I'm not talking about detectors. In my last presentation last week with Ambient Girl, one of the questions that came up, and you guys might be wondering, is like, what are these guys swinging? Like, what are they swinging? And they both have different detectors. You'd recognize both. One is using a Nocta, the Amphibio. The other one's using a MINELAB Nox. And they've both had very good success with them because they know their machines. And they're putting that coil over these targets. So like knowing your machine is paramount. Okay. So I'm not bringing up machines here because I don't favor any one machine. I own a lot of different kinds of machines, but each machine, as I say, has a different purpose maybe, and is better at one thing than another. So this isn't a talk. If you want to learn about MINELAB or Equinox, Larry, I heard you're the man. I heard you
I try to be.
You did some really great stuff on that. All
Thank
right,
you.
so this is the way in this Homer. I'm not a big Homer fan, but I was looking for a GIF that would do this. Is it moving for you? Because
Yes.
it was moving the other day, and I like the moving part because it says what I'm trying to say. You need to select the right tool for the right job, okay? And sometimes you need more tools. So there's no one tool that I'm going to share with you. And I'm not sharing all of them with you today. I'm going to give you like the major ones, the ones that people probably have heard maybe. and how to use them. There's other tools too. You know, everyone's toolbox is full of different stuff, and I love gadgets, so I have a lot of different tools. But my analogy would be like this: if you ever had to screw something in, and you needed a Phillips head screwdriver, and all you had was like a regular screwdriver, that's not a pretty picture, okay? That's like so frustrating because you're going to waste a lot of time trying to get that screw in with the wrong tool. And that's what this is all about. You really need to have the right tool to do the job. And research is really about having several different tools. And each of these tools have different purposes or different uses. So there is no magic to this. I don't want to tell you that I'm going to give you a secret or a tool or a technique that's going to be guaranteeing you that you're going to be, you know, hitting it, you know, the jackpot every time. But I will show you the kinds of tools that you can use that will increase your odds. So let's do that. Libraries, all right? Research is key. Today, I don't know how many people spend much time in the library. Unfortunately, right now with the library and COVID and all that, a lot of people don't go to the library because you can't. But I spend a lot of time in the library. I've had to because of my job. Obviously, I'm at a university, or I was in a hospital for 20 years. But you spend a lot of time in libraries. You work with a lot of different librarians. And I have the utmost respect for librarians. They're so highly trained and educated in library research that when you walk into a library, a lot of times you'll see like this information desk area. Those librarians are there to help you do your searching. And my suggestion to you is to become really good friends with your librarian. Okay, he or she, become friends with them because they are our friends, and they can give you or lead you to reference shelves that may hold some treasures in there that are just waiting to be pulled off of that shelf. Now, the problem, the other side of this is most librarians are not detectorists. Okay, so the issue is they don't know exactly what you do. So that's where that connection with them needs to happen, is to explain what you're interested in and what you're trying to do. And then if you do find something as a result of their efforts of helping you, my suggestion is to say more than a thank you. I brought them chocolates. I've done things for them. I just like, thank you so much. You have no idea how much time you saved me or taught me, because it's not just about having them do it, but teach you how to do it, because a lot of this you're going to continue on your own outside. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on librarians. They're wonderful people. I spend once a month, I go to the library just as a community service volunteer, and I teach kids. And I do we call it the Star Club. It's a space, telescopes, astronomy, and robotics. We do all of that kind of stuff because it's really fun. And my kids did it, and I want to help other kids now. So one of my favorite things in the library is like when you go to reference shelves, and this is an amazing book for our area because I'm from Connecticut, and I love researching like old schoolhouses. And a friend of mine said, Wayne, I'll show you the next picture. A friend of mine said, well, these kids, these original schoolhouses, they might be pretty old and stuff, but these kids didn't have money. What money did they have? Well, yeah, they were probably, money was pretty tight. And if they lost any of the change that they had, they probably got a beating when they got home because, the money was pretty tight. But if you look at these kids, right, and you analyze these pictures, a lot of them have jackets and things like that. And guess what? They're wearing buttons, right? And they're kids, so they're playing. And it's all age groups here. So these kids are playing. They're bound. They're kids. And if they had a coin, they probably would have lost it. Or they might have shown something that shouldn't show and tell, and they lost it. Or they were playing rough, and they lost some buttons. So, already that I like buttons. So that would be one of the things. But also, I've had actually some very good finds, coinage finds in these locations. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to embarrass myself, but just to share it. We have a little, we call it the red schoolhouse because it's actually red colored, and it has a sign on it. And I think it's like 1933 red schoolhouse. And it's maybe 2 miles from where I live. And I've been driving by it for ages, and every time I drive by, I said, I got to get a permission to do this because this is just like too tempting. So my son finally did it. He actually got the permission, and we went. And what ended up happening was we detected, and actually he did a lot better than I did. He was getting like a lot of modern coinage, clads and stuff. And he was doing pretty well, but nothing old, and nothing to show the date like 1933. So like something's like really not right here. And maybe it's been detected really heavily. I don't know. But I had to research it. So I researched it. Okay. I went back to that book that I just showed you. And I researched it. And it turned out that the original schoolhouse was actually 2 miles away down the road, and they moved it here. So this is like a transplant in the 90s. And that explains like we were getting all these new coins because it had only been there for a little while. Now they opened it up as a museum now, and it has like inside is like the same kind of like classic, furniture and all that. But the actual place, and I researched that, is 2 miles down the road, and it's now a nature food or nature place. Okay. And it's not detectable because it's actually all built up over it and you can't detect it. So unfortunately the site is gone, but I was humbled by that because I think of how many people drive by and they think, wow, 1933, this is very cool. But if you research it, you'd find out it really wasn't cool. All right, this is a tribute. Okay, this man is died before he's had an untimely death, and he's one of my favorite relic hunters. He is a legendary relic hunter, and that's putting it mildly. I hope some of you have heard of him. He was around for quite a while, and he wrote some really great stuff. If anyone does that Western Eastern magazine, Treasure Magazine, I think that's the way it's named. He wrote articles for that. I read them cover to cover. And he published a couple books. And just a little story with this is that, this guy, he was a teacher too. So we had some things in common. He was a teacher. He taught history. And one of the things is that he did a lot of research. And he was mostly in New York and I believe in the Hudson River Valley. And he did a lot of French and Indian War stuff. But he came up to Bone. Some of you have heard of it maybe. Bone is Best of New England. And it's a big show that George Streeter does up in New Hampshire. It's a great show. Shout out to George on that. But he had him as a guest speaker. And I had just purchased this book, the one on the right, The World of the Relic Hunter. And I read it from cover to cover the day I bought it. And I brought it up with me because I heard he was speaking. And, this is in my hand. So I brought the book with me and I met the guy. And I held him on a pedestal. Because this guy had, if you read his books and what he's done some really incredible things. And he autographed the book for me. I actually have it right next to me. And on it, he said, good relic hunting to Chris, Wayne, and Ann, best of everything, Ed. And I treasure that book to this day. And I'm so sad that I never had the opportunity to swing with him or his crew up there. But this guy was just legendary. And he ended his career towards the end of his career. Like I said, he had kind of an unexpected, untimely death. But when he, at the end of his career, he had dug so much. Like if you look at his finds, it's just incredible that he wanted to do something different, kind of like what I'm doing. And that was to give back. So now he's working with, he was at the time of his death, he was working with archaeologists doing a fort up there. I can't remember the name of the fort, but his last part of it was helping the archaeologists find things at this fort. And he was one of the pioneers, I believe, in this whole regard, because a lot of you would think about like archaeologists and it's kind of like this love-hate relationship with medical detectives. A lot of them don't like us because they think we're like robbers and treasure seekers and stealing, disturbing history. But there's a select few out there that have a different opinion. And part of that may have stimulated from his work and showing them that, our expertise is in finding stuff. Archaeologists, they're good at cataloging and doing their thing, and I respect that a lot. But in giving them a detector, they're not going to do the same kind of work that we can. So we can actually work in hand. And that was his approach, and I give him great credit for that. And in a little bit, I'll tell you how I'm getting involved in that too. Other things. One of the things I got from him is that some of the best things that you can read are actually firsthand accounts. And you have to take it with a little grain of salt because if it was a soldier and it was writing in a journal, and if he was sending a letter home, if he got letters, the letters that he would send home oftentimes were softened a little bit because it might have been a miserable thing that he was going through, but he didn't want his family to feel that bad for him. So sometimes those letters might be softened. And then if he did the accounts later in the journals, they might be more realistic to what was really happening. But from a lot of these different journals, you can excerpt information. And some of these journals are available in the library. Some of them are available in research in the internet. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But a lot of these journals are invaluable, but you have to decipher the writing because it's pretty horrible. But at the same time, what I kind of key in on is sometimes they drew maps. And in the map, they were talking about the location where they were camping out. And I matched up maps that were hand-drawn to actual maps in many occasions and been able to successfully locate that location. And just think about it. This is a place one of these people stood, and you're standing on that same ground. And that was hundreds of years ago. That's like an unbelievable feeling. Unbelievable.
That's treasure in itself.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's not about what you find.
Yeah.
Although I have to admit, when I go to a site like that, if I can find something that represents that site, then I feel like I've really accomplished what I was trying to do. Even if it's just something simple. If I find something that proves that I'm actually on the same site, that's unbelievable. All right. An untapped resource many times. People collect these, but don't realize how valuable they can be maybe for your research. And these are postcards. This just happens to be Connecticut. And then when I was researching it, they had this really cool site where you can get postcards from all over the place. But wherever you may be, wherever you live, if you have a location near you, like sometimes you'll find them in tag sales or garage sales, or, like they have these like little fairs where they sell stuff. You go there and you find this kind of stuff in boxes. A lot of times they don't ask a lot of money for them, but they can give you a lot of ideas. And I'll show you in a second one of my favorites, because it's from Connecticut, and how it gave us leads here in finding some stuff. And this is it. Actually, it's right here. This is one of Connecticut postcards. It's Sherwood Island. If anyone's been in Connecticut, it's a major beach here. It's a state park. But when you read this, it says, was the first purchase of land for the new park system in 1914. It did not have public access until 17 years later. And here, the park commissioners, these are like the rangers at the time, are looking across the new creek into the park at illegal campers in 1923. So you look at this and you read that little history. It's kind of cool. But let's look at it from a detector's point of view. Okay, from a detector's point of view, what do you assess from this? Well, you've got a creek here. You got the shoreline. You got a creek here. You got a bunch of people camping over here. These really old-fashioned tents are like funny. It's kind of funny, like these pointy little tents. And you get some cars parked here. People. You have people. So these people are standing here. They're camping here. They're losing stuff here. So my thing in seeing this postcard is, I wonder if I can find this area that was the preliminary campground and see what's there. That would be my my task, my adventure. And I was talking to one of the guys in our club, who's been a Connecticut resident all his life. And one of the things he did point out to me when I showed him this was that he had said that with all the hurricanes that we get, things change. And I've seen that since I've been in Connecticut, just like the last 30 years. But I've seen changes as a result of the hurricane. So this creek is probably no longer there, which is even more intriguing because it's somewhere else now. It may be rerouted, but that means the site might be covered with sand. It could be open. You never know. I got an invite from a friend actually today to do not this site, but another site that he's been researching. And I give him full credit. Jerry, he's the man. And he's been researching it, and he believes that he's targeted the area where the stuff like this happened. So I can't wait. I told him it was very kind of him to ask me to go with him. But he also appreciated some of the stuff I did for him. Now, this is something we drive by him all the time. And and sometimes you drive by and you're like sad because you know like it's probably a historic area and you can't go there, but that's okay. I bring my phone and I take pictures of all this, because these pictures, oftentimes there's maps, and the maps might be showing the area that's off limits, but it may also show the areas around it in the perimeter that are also possibly detectable. And you have to do a little research to figure out what they are. But people lose things in a radius here. And this happened to be this Glacier Manufacturing Company. A little history on this is that this was like a major place, like in history, they had almost like a township built around it, because this was the primary job place. So people had homes here. They had everything going on here. So it's really, really popular. So you can't detect this. And what I'm saying is I never, ever, and go out to say this, I will not help somebody that if you're planning to do like a historic site and do something illegal, I don't want to be any part of it. So don't ask me to find stuff for you on a battlefield, like locations on I won't do it. It's got to be a legit site, and you need to have permission. Okay. That's the moral ethics of this. This is one of my favorite sites, even though most of this is not detectable. The perimeter of it is, and there's a river you can't see. It's on the other side of this ridge here. And you can see the foundation. This is like in pristine shape, considering it's pretty old. It goes back into the 1800s. This is what they call a shoddy mill. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Many of you may have, but just for the sake of people that don't, shoddy mills are factories that manufactured cloth. And the cloth that they manufactured was called shoddy cloth, because it was really made from remnants. So they would take torn clothing. They would collect torn clothing from people that was either, I guess maybe they paid them for it, but they would take the torn clothing, they would rip the buttons off, and then they would take the cloth and they would process it, mash it all up, mix it all up, and then make a new cloth for it. And during the wars, like Civil War, that's where a lot of the Union uniforms came from, these Shoddy Mills. And they're all over the place. I mean, if you look, you'll find that they're located in many different areas. But the point that for me is, I said, great area for buttons, my favorite. Why? Because they didn't want to take the time to cut each button off to get a little extra cloth. So they just ripped the buttons off. Like they just, tore that strip of buttons off. So they put it in like a bin or like a cask, and then they would sell that. And the farmers would buy it because this cloth was really good at holding moisture. So they could put it in their fields. Well, the cloth would deteriorate over time. Guess what you're left with? Buttons. So when people like tell me they found like a button field, I'm thinking this has probably been a shoddy cloth field, because I mean, you find buttons in the field because harvesters and people over time lose the buttons just from their process of working. But you also may be associated with this, especially when you get a variety of buttons, like a lot of different types of buttons. So that's like so cool. And the other thing, I had read something about this, it was kind of neat, is some of these factories, I mean, buttons were a nuisance for them. So they were often located next to a stream or a river. So they would toss this stuff. The river was like their dump. They would toss these buttons into the river. And I've seen pictures, and God's honest truth, pictures of people going into these rivers, and the river bottom was coated with buttons. So you can imagine, like I was in like seventh heaven when I saw these pictures. It was like fun.
You bet.
So my plan with this site anyway is to go back. And it was actually my son that said this to me. He said, Dad, we got to go back. We got to wait until the water level goes down like a drought, and then go back and do that beach area. That's when the river goes down, and we might find some. So you never know. Things might get washed away. But if I find one button, then I'll be happy that we accomplished that. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Larry knows I talked 4 days straight last week, and they kind of wind me up in the morning. They wind me up in the morning. I start talking, and I talk all day because I teach all day. But I lost my voice last week. I had no voice. So I was hoping that I'd have it back, and I've been nursing it with honey and stuff. So hopefully we got it. All right, move on. Old timers, stories about the good old days. It's not the book that I'm talking about. It's the person. Talk to people with families that have lived for generations. This personal accounts are invaluable research. Mm-hmm. You can often learn much more than you can from books. And just another story. I like to tell stories. I mean, I hope I'm not boring you with the stories, but I like to tell stories because sometimes you can remember things better from the story. And the story here is there's a local farm that I knew was historic and I wanted to detect. And I researched it. So I found out all about the family, and I know it was in one family for 150 years. And I knew their names, and I knew who was everything about the family. So I called the farm, and I spoke to the great grandson. And in conversation, I said I had been researching the family and that they had been there for a long time. And I mentioned like his grandfather and his great grandfather's names. And he was like, "Wow, you really did do the research." I said, "Yeah, I think you have a wonderful piece of property there." And my son and I, one of the things we like to do is arrowhead hunt. And I said, "Would you mind if I walk the fields?" I hit a button. Because he said, "I love arrowhead hunting too," and he had his collection of arrowheads that he's found on the farm. Like when they till the farm, they find these things. And he told me the stories of the old timers, like when they used to hoe the fields. They used to have a contest. It was a game because it was kind of boring just hoeing the fields. He said they used to have a contest, like to see who would find the first arrowhead, and then if somebody found one. But they missed it, like it was in their row. Then they would call like, "Grabs, take it," and they would take that one because they had spotted it first. So they made fun of it because it was a tedious work. But I asked him, "Do you mind if I walk the field with my son?" And he said, "Absolutely, no problem." And he even told me what field was producing the most for them over time. So, long story short, we walked the field. We didn't find any arrowheads that day, but I had an amazing day with my son, just out in the fields, walking them. But there was something else I was doing when I was walking. When I was walking, I was reading that field because I wanted to see if there was any evidence of anything that showed activity. So I was looking for porcelain. I was looking for glass. I was looking for clay pipes. I was looking for anything that might give me a clue as to where some activity might have been. I had done some of the advanced techniques on the field, and I didn't show anything on these fields that was of interest. So I just started reading the field, and I did locate a part of the field that there were some finds that shouldn't have been there. There were some things just laying on the surface. And after this, I contacted him again and asked if I could metal detect. And he was really cool. We had established a rapport at this point. And I actually found some old farm tools. And these are like classic antique farm tools, and people collect them. And I told him that I found this tool. If he wanted it, I would clean it up for him and give it to him. And like he was like so thankful. Like this guy was like, wow, thank you so much. And I probably have a lifelong permission there now. And I don't just hog it now. I go with my sons, when I can, but I bring my buds, and I try not to abuse the privilege because, I don't want like a whole club there because that would, people dig, and that wouldn't be really cool. And I want to respect the guy. And he lets me detect when it's planted because he trusts me. And that trust you have to earn, and I don't want to abuse that. So I really do enjoy it. But it was like what I'm saying is you talk to people, you get a lot of information. That's my point. All right. A lot of people, I don't know in your state, but in my state, you can't detect cemeteries. That's illegal, off limits, and I don't detect cemeteries. However, cemeteries can be very helpful when you're trying to gauge a site or a location as to the age. Now, somebody might just walk by this and say, okay, there's a stone here, and there's a cemetery, and this is like in the middle of nowhere. But how much else can you glean from this picture? Think about it for a second. What can you glean from this picture, just looking at this picture? All right.
Well, I would say that you could look at those dates, and that people have been from the time that the oldest stone was placed there. People have been attending that piece of property, so they obviously had to live in the perimeters of that area. So,
that was a very good observation, Larry. And I didn't even prime you on that. So that's really good. Let me share this with you, and some of your listeners or people watching may have picked this out too. If you look at the heading on the top, French and Indian War. This guy was a veteran. He's got a flag next to here, so somebody respected the fact that he was a veteran. They put a flag here. So you're right. There's been recent contact. This is somebody's family, or it could have been a scout troop that was honoring the war veterans. That's true too. But there's been some activity here. And if you look really hard, dying June 2nd, 1787. So I found a cellar hole not a quarter mile from here. I'm thinking to myself, this might have been this guy's home, or it could have been close to his home, or, his family. So my goal now is to go to this cellar hole and see, can I find anything that connects this stone, Norton, with that cellar hole? And if I can, then the next part of my research will be to find out, is that family still around, and then share that find with them, because that's going to mean more to me than just doing that cellar hole. So this guy was in a period of French and Indian War. Like, I don't know everything there is to know about the French and Indian War, but it's very significant in our history. So, again, just a simple walk by on a cemetery and looking at something like this, how much you can glean from it. And then, like I said, this is in the middle of nowhere. My bud, the first guy that I highlighted for you guys, he actually found right next to the cellar hole up in the woods a beautifully maintained, at the time it was, rock wall that was built around a small little cemetery that must have been the family cemetery at the time. And it's just amazing. Now, even though it's illegal to detect in cemeteries, one of the things that some people will do is that they'll get permission to do outside of the cemetery in the perimeter. And in Connecticut, I actually got a permission. I don't want to bore you guys with a lot of stories, but I did get a permission from the Historical Society to do it, because they were interested to see what kind of relics and artifacts we could recover from around the cemetery. And we never really hit it really, really hard. But I was just thinking in researching it, and actually, Ambient Girl, I think you mentioned it to me when we were talking about this, that people actually had picnics, on the outside. They would, a lot of times like a celebration, and the families would get together. Carriages were there. People were getting in and out of carriages. So yeah, there's got to be stuff, on these perimeters, and that is legal with permission. All right, this is something I don't know if you all heard of this before. My buddy today, one of my buddies, Cliff, actually, sent me, and I didn't have time because I had already put the presentation together for you, so I can't include your pictures, Cliff, and I apologize to you. And I'll be on a future one if people ask me to do this again. But I told him this, and he had never heard this before, and a lot of people hadn't heard this before, so I'm just mentioning it. This isn't the greatest photograph, obviously, and I had actually asked him if he had a better photograph color to show you. But you have two trees here. These two trees are referred to as the bride and groom trees, and they came from a caretaker house from the 1890s. I believe it was in function up until 1940. And you can see like there's a kind of like new forest here, and there's a clearing behind it. Well, the bride and groom trees, just to share with you what the significance is, when a house was built and a new couple came in, they would plant two trees for good luck. This was like a tradition. And the two trees were always planted in the front of the house. And the idea was that they would grow and prosper as they hoped the family would grow and prosper. So they were called bride and groom trees. When you're driving around someday, and you especially I know in New England anyway, and you come across old places, sometimes you'll still see these standing because the trees weather time pretty well. This is an old photograph of these, but they weather time very, very well. And sometimes they break down. But my story about this is that when I'm detecting an area like this, and I have a permission to do it in an area like this, the first place I'm going to go is these trees, because these trees have been there and had probably a lot of activity around them. They're at the front of the house, so now the front of the house location. You also know that people probably sat around the trees, stood around the trees. And when I showed you earlier, when I showed you that half cent, the large cent that was cut in half, in a really hunted out site, I mean, it's been hit for the last 40 or 50 years. At the base of one of these trees, I found one of those. So, and that was so special to me because I had never found, I'd heard about like clipping the coins, but I had never found one before. Not a large set. I found a dime once that was cut, a trime that was cut, but I never found a large set that was cut perfectly. And it was at the base of one of these trees. So just to give your listeners a perspective, like when you look at this, how you can interpret this. And I guess now's as good a time as any. I'm going to mention something, and Larry, I'll give it to you, and you can post it to the group for them to watch later. There's a video series out there. It's called Tom Wessel's Reading the Forest. And if you guys ever have the opportunity, I strongly urge you. It'll be a life-changing experience for you. Okay? I don't say that lightly. I never walk into a forest now the same way, because this guy knows his stuff. He calls it forest ecology, or forensic ecology. That's what he calls it. He's a professor too. He's up in the University of New Hampshire, I believe. And he put together a series of videos. It's a series, but it's how to read the landscape in the forest. And just check it out. You need something to do someday, check it out. If you're into woods and forest, check it out. All right, so this is my little workstation. I've just added a new piece to this in the middle here. I kind of had to spread this out. I have my laptop. And the reason for the laptop is it's portable and it lets me do stuff. People that know me, I don't talk a lot about myself, but people that really know me know that I like gadgets. So if you look around here, there's a lot of different gadgets here that all have a role. I don't buy gadgets for the sake of gadgets. I buy them because they have a role for me. Today, I was just telling Larry, I bought a new monitor. And my suggestion is to get the biggest monitor that you can afford, only because you can display more. And it gives you just a little bit more working room. Like right now, I'm presenting this to you on a laptop. So I have this like little 15-inch screen. I normally present on multiple screens. And when I do my research, I have like all these screens going. I got 2 different programs going on here. I'll be talking about these in a minute. But it's nice to go back and forth instead of reopening things. So it's just a luxury. And people ask me, like, do you use Mac or PC? This is just my shout out to both. I like both for different reasons. I like Macs and Apples because for the graphics, I think the graphics are superior. The programs are really, really good. I like the Audacity and the GarageBand for doing like a podcast kind of a thing. I think that's cool. But I am a PC guy because that's what I use at work. I just got this camera. Like, this is so superior to what I'm using here. But I don't have dual cameras going on. The other day I had dual cameras. But let me get going. Not about my stuff. Many people tell me they research, and I ask, what do you use? And most often I hear Google, and they're really proud of that. And they'll say that's, and I'll respond, that's cool. I mean, it's a very popular search engine. I use it too. I mean, I go to it regularly. I like it. It's a good, overall foundation. But what most people don't realize, and this is a reality check here, most people don't realize that Google is very limited because it only indexes about 5% of the internet. 95% of the time, it's missing things, which is like mind-boggling. Okay, to me, that it is a really cool tool, and you use the tool, and you get all this information, but to realize that information isn't as valuable as it could be, that's the game-changing experience that I'm going to try to share with you. So this is a picture of it. This is the web. Okay, if you look like the web, then the analogy is it's like an iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg is what Google and these other engines, surface browsers look for, like Google, Yahoo, Naver, Yandex, Wikipedia, Reddit, Dogpile, all these different ones that are out there. There's dozens of them. Each one of these look at the surface and what they are. You can't use Google as a source, okay? Like if you're researching, it's not a source. It's just a browser that's searching. It's a search engine is what it is. And it sends out these robots, okay, like these little mini bots, and they're all digital. And they scan the internet for all this information. And as they find it relevant, they bring it back. And it's amazing, how they do that. I mean, it's just the technology. It's like crazy. But what you don't realize, I guess, maybe, is that it's not really in depth. In depth goes into deeper parts of the web. So then you have the deep web. This is where cloud storage is kept. Patient data, like when you have hospitals and clinical stuff, that's where it's kept. Research articles, that's where they're kept. Legal documents, financial records, and so forth, that's all deep web. That is accessible if you know how to do it, all right? It needs special browsers, and there's some things that go out. I'll talk a little bit more about it. Then there's the dark web, all right? Dark web, you don't want to be, all right? The dark web, as the name implies, is like the dark side. That's where the hackers are. That's where a lot of bad stuff goes on. Terrorists, a lot of bad stuff goes on in the dark web. You don't want to go there. And most of you are not going to be able to get there because to get into the dark web, you normally have to have an invite. That's like a really people that use this. And some countries totally ban the deep web and especially the dark web because they don't want people accessing this at that level because they can cause a lot of damage. The hackers, as you've heard of hacks and stuff like that, that's really bad stuff. I used to do a presentation about viruses, like computer viruses, and it's crazy the stuff that they do, all right? It's really bad. I used to collect viruses, like computer viruses. I used to study them. It's just really bad stuff. But I digress a little bit. But what I wanted to say is that there is some more useful information out there. But I know the average person isn't going to delve into the deep web and, God forbid, go to the dark web. So how can we get the most out of the surface web? Because there is value there. Trust me, I use it a lot. And there is value there. But you need to know how to use it. That's the catch. The way most people use the search engines is not effective. In other words, I see this all the time. I'm guilty of it as well. The average person just types in a few words and relies on Google to do the rest. Well, that's its activity. That's how way it works. That's the way it's designed. It's to try to make your life easier, okay? So oftentimes the results are either too broad or not really focused. So I just did this for ha-has. This was like this morning, I said, let me say, finding cellar holes, because I'm going to talk about that today. Finding cellar holes, 1,360,000 results in 5.9 seconds, 0.5, like half a second. That's like crazy that it generated that many results in that time. But let me go back here. 1,360,000. If you were going to try to read all of those 1 million, you'd spend the rest of your life. You wouldn't have enough time in the rest of your life to do all that. Okay, it's not possible. So what you need to do, and this is what I'm going to present to you, is that what you need to do is like focus your research a little bit, and that's what I'm offering to people. That's because it's what I do. But you can learn this as well. If you want to invest the time, you can learn it. It's nothing magical. It's just the time to learn it. So here's your takeaway, okay? Google and search engine researching really needs to include advanced, specific researching techniques and tools to be game-changing successful. If you want to find those kinds of things, you want to have the opportunity to put those odds in your favor, you got to do this stuff, okay? Or you have me do it. Boolean searching techniques. All right. Some of these, like every profession, whatever profession you may be out there, whatever job you do, you have terms that are related to your profession specifically. And if you use those buzzwords, you talk to like a person that doesn't do that, they don't know what the heck you're talking about. That's what I'm talking. It's like you talk the talk if you do it, but if you don't do it, then you don't know what they're doing. Well, that's the same thing here. These are like library terms. So if nothing else, look at some of these terms, write them down, so that when you go to a library, say, you don't need me. You can just go to the library and you can ask them to do some of this stuff. You go in, you ask them, okay, can you show me or can you do for me Boolean searching techniques? That's the key word. And then there's also called truncation. It's also known as stemming. Then there's also keyword searches versus subject searches. It makes a difference. You're going to use search fields, and I just put a little pun there, not cornfields. Using phrases, that's a technique that's again to focus your research. Using a thing called step words, it's another thing that's used. Comparison of top search engines. The best person to ask which search engine to use is the librarian. She'll know because she does it all the time. That's her job. And believe me, they like to hear that. The top search engines, there's many, but there's a catch to some of these, and I want to mention that in a second before I forget the thought. Comparison of the top meta search engines, Zula, Pippo, there's a whole bunch of them. What happens with those is they take like the individual search engines and they put them together for you. So they do like a massive search using multiple search engines at the same time. That's called meta search. And that's very effective because it's like taking the best of all these different things. Like I've tried like the what do they call Bing, Yahoo, Google, Dogpile, all these things, and each one's a little bit different. But there's something else that I got to tell you because this may concern some of you very much, and that is, and see if you can relate to this. When you do Google, right, and you start doing searching in Google, and many of you do, I know. When you do it, do you notice that sometimes like you get these like really weird ads that come up, and they're like stuff that you're really interested in, and it's like, how did Google know that I was interested in that? Google knows you're interested in it because it monitors everything you do on Google. So it knows what sites you've been to. It knows what you've been doing. So it's guessing what things you like. And it provides that with you. And it's like almost like this customized experience. But on the negative side, it's like Big Brother watching you. And a lot of people don't like that fact that people are monitoring you. These internet service providers are monitoring everything that you do. And that's how they do surveillance. I mean, that's how they catch people doing things that they shouldn't be doing. My guess, though, okay, is that the average detectorist does not know any of these techniques, is not familiar with any of these techniques that I just said to you. And that's just the way it is. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that's not your profession, okay? I happen to know this stuff because it's part of my profession. Part of my thing is research. It's not always metal detector research, but it's applying my research to this. All right. So anyway, enough about Google. You can learn more about it, and I can teach you. Historic maps, very popular research tool. When I did a survey of the internet, what people are doing out there, I found this one to be a very common one. And the nice thing about it is free. There's a free version, there's a paid version, and there's no reason to pay for it when you can get the free version that's pretty functional. The funny thing about this too is that you sign up for it. You have to register. That's one thing. You see up at the top. I should have registered in this one just so you could have seen it. It's kind of funny. When you first register, they give you $1. I was like, oh, that's nice. Because they want you to buy their maps. That's the reason they're offering this, the free version, is they want you to buy the maps. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And I know people that just go to the site just to download and print the maps, or they can buy the maps. And I know people that do this as a business. They take these maps, they print them out, they frame them, and they sell them. And, people say, oh, you drew this beautiful map. Oh, no, they went to Historic Works and they printed a nice one. It's really pretty. But you can use these for our research. And that's what my point is that you can use this. So let me just go back for 1 second. When you do this, so it doesn't show you on the screen, but there's a basic and then a paid. So you always want to just do the basic one. If you've never heard of this before, it's really cool, worth checking out. This is what you get. You can do a search within Historic MapWorks, and it's called historicmapworks.com. So you got to remember to type the whole thing. historicmapworks.com, and you can do a search of all their maps. And then this is what you get. So I did one just in Connecticut, and I'll show you this later on. And when I did this, the reason I did it was I wanted to see what was available for old maps. And the old maps could be 1800s, whenever they were drawn. Now, there's a couple of things to just keep this in consideration. This is only available if someone made or took the time to make a map. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get a map of every single location that you could possibly want. They have a lot, but it's not going to be necessarily focused in your area specifically. So don't count on that. The other thing is these maps were hand drawn before they had any kind of sophisticated technology to draw maps accurately. So, I mean, I give them a lot of credit because they're pretty good, but they're not always going to be exact. In other words, if you overlay, and that's the whole point of this, is when you overlay these old maps with the new maps, they don't always match up. Like roads might be a little bit different, rivers, streams, things might be a little bit different. So you kind of have to juggle a little bit to get really more accurate. But they are pretty good. This is the overlay feature I was mentioning. So this is a historic map of Haddam. And I'm going to use this as a little case study with you guys, because I think case studies are kind of cool, like to appreciate how you can put this together. Well, with Haddam, this is the old map of Haddam. And underneath it is the current map of Haddam. So this is like, you can see the highways and all that and the roads. And it overlays it. And the map shows the river very, very, very well. This is the Connecticut River running right along here. And then if you go closer, here's our Connecticut River, and this happens to be Haddam. But all these little black boxes, and again, if you've seen this before, just bear with me. I'll move on to other things in a minute. But if you've never seen it, it's kind of fascinating because each of these black boxes indicates a home. So that's where a house was. And over here, if you read these really carefully, this was a school. And you know I love schools. Tollgate School was located in this spot. So you get an idea, you get names, so you can get ideas of like family names. A lot of times if it was one family in an area, you get a lot of that name. In Connecticut, Brainerd is a huge name, a very popular name in Connecticut, and you find a lot of things. You also, if you take a look here, this is kind of interesting. If you analyze this, you see over here is RR, that's railroad. So this is the Connecticut Valley Railroad. If you look really hard, you'll see like this larger rectangular structure here. Anybody want to, Larry, you want to tell me what you think that is?
The rectangular structure?
Right there, yeah.
That was probably a depot.
You got it, my friend. So your check is in the mail, Larry. That's awesome. That's really awesome. So you pick that out. And an average person looks at this and says, oh, it's a pretty map. But when you analyze it, that's what I'm saying. The scientific part, and the scientist in me is what likes to analyze this. There's a railroad here. There's a road that runs through here all the way to the water. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's a railroad station. And when I researched this, there were 2 of these located on this stretch. So people were on and off that platform. This was a big park. It's Haddam Meadows State Park. So, I mean, it was a popular resort. And it had such a rich history. It's unbelievable, the history. I could spend all night just talking the history of this park. But what I'm focusing on here for you is that this is a potential detecting spot right there. And it's using this historic maps as a guide for that. Finding that spot doesn't mean that someone else hasn't seen this map or analyzed it as well. But isn't it just cool to be able to just look and try to figure out where that is? It gives you like a little task, a little adventure. So this is the state park in the regular map, not the historic map overlay. You can see it's very similar to the other one. The railroad is still, you can still see the tracks. This tracks still run. This wasn't populated. So you notice that there weren't, if you go, I should have shown you that. You notice right in here, there were no houses. On this side of the railroad, there were no houses. This is just open field. It was pasture field, primarily pasture. In crops. They had crops as well, all the way back to the Native Americans. So it's got a lot of history. But what happens is it's so close to the river that, and flood times, this all floods. This is a floodplain. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to build houses here because they would be flooded. So you don't find a lot of houses on this side. This is the lower plain. On the other side of the river, interesting. People built houses right along that river, okay, on this side, because the floods went this way. They didn't go that way. So anyway, this is kind of a fun park, and we've been hitting this one we've restarted hitting it, put it this way. It's been hit for a long time. A good buddy of mine I'm going to highlight in a few minutes, Seth. He's an amazing guy, and he's a nice guy. He regularly goes to this area because I turned him on to a field park down the road here. But he goes to this park, and it's really trashy. So you got to deal with the trash because it's, bottle caps, cans. It's really messed up. But there's a whole section of this park, this area right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. This whole area that's all overgrown with brush. And I'm talking about serious pricker kind of brush, stuff that you can't detect in. It's a mess. Well, Seth went down here one day, and he noticed that the state went in and they cut all this stuff out. So what it just did was it opened up this entire area up for detecting. And where that's cool is because no one's really detected it because it's all been overgrown. So Seth went in, he came out with some incredible stuff. I don't know what you guys call incredible. For me, incredible is like when you get some rare piece, and he got some like reals, Spanish reals, those silver coins. Those are like the coolest coin to me to find. And he got a couple right when he started detecting over there. And he brought them to the club, and he put them in like our finds of the month. And he won, obviously, because they were pretty cool. And then he did something that I thought was really nice. And he mentioned to the members, people ask him, where'd you get that stuff? And most people just say, oh, a park, you know. Seth said, had him, okay? And he told us what was going on. So you know what happened next, right? He had a gang go down here and detect it. Now, people found stuff, but I also believe in karma. And Seth, in sharing that with us, he's still got the most stuff out of that park. He knows exactly the area really well, and he's a great detector, so I'll show you. But he was nice, and I respect that he shared it, because I share all the time. But I respect when people do that. They could have just hoarded that area. But then other clubs found out, so now it's getting hit again, and it's getting harder to find stuff. But there is stuff there, and it was just all started with this map. All right, the thing that most of you, or many of you, might be here for, and I know that, is what I'm going to show you now. I worked at UConn for about 20 years, okay, before I moved to Bridgeport, University of Bridgeport in when did I move? No, not even 19, excuse me. It was 2012 I moved to the University of Bridgeport, but I thought I was going to retire at UConn. But UConn put this together, and it was, I didn't have anything to do with this. I'm not taking any claim to that, but I love using it, and thank you, UConn. This is a product that they put, it's maps and geospatial data. So the name sounds, kind of amazing, but really what it's going to be talking about, and it's kind of like that forbidden word. Someone told me, Wayne, don't mention this word, because if you do, people are going to hate you. And well, I'm going to mention it because it's in the press and people have heard it, and people hear it, and it's kind of like mysterious. Well, it's called LiDAR. And what is LiDAR? LiDAR is an acronym that actually stands for something. Light detection and ranging is what it stands for. It's sometimes called laser scanning or 3D scanning. And the technology uses an eye-safe laser beam so you can look at it. They tell you don't look at a laser because you damage your eyes. It's dangerous. But this is a light safe, so it can shine it down. And then what it does is these beams bounce off the ground, and they come back to either a plane or a helicopter. And then there's a GPS equipment and really sophisticated equipment on this plane. And what it does is it generates a 3D representation of the environment. Okay. And I said show YouTube video. I'm not gonna show it right now. At the end, I'll give you guys a link to it if anybody's interested. It's only 4 minutes, but if I disrupt the presentation, I don't know if I can get back in. And then Larry knows at this point, we've gone through so much to get this showing that I don't want to risk it. This is you're at the right side. If you get this plane flying, that's the beginning of the thing. And it just takes you, it's just an instruction on how LiDAR works. Because I can describe it, but usually like a picture's worth 1,000 words, and a video is even better. So if you're curious as to how it works, this video is awesome. And if you Google LiDAR, there's like a million of them. But this one is the one I found that I thought was very helpful. So this is just a representation of it. LiDAR is what stands for light detection and ranging, as I said. It's a remote sensing method that uses light in the form of a pulsed laser to measure ranges, variable distances to the Earth. A LiDAR instrument principally consists of a laser, a scanner, and a specialized GPS receiver. So this is a forest. Archaeologists are using LiDAR to discover new Maya structures in the jungle, just to show you what this is capable of. This is a jungle, all right? You can't see anything in that. When you do a LiDAR representation, you fly a plane over that, and you hit this with LiDAR, this is one of the representations that you get. So you get this multicolored, it's almost like infrared kind of like look to it. And I think you guys can all notice this. You see something here, like this little square? These are all new ruins. Maya ruins that have never been seen before because they were hidden in the jungle. And I don't know about you, but when I first saw this, I was seriously impressed. So seriously impressed, the first thing I thought is, how could this be used for detecting? All right, because if you can see these Mayan ruins through the forest, maybe we can use that in our forest. And I'll show you. The thing is here, and I don't have a picture of it, but two things came about. This actually today, someone told me one of the I forget. I think it was like a Jack Ryan thing. They were using LiDAR in the Hollywood. Hollywood's using LiDAR to show ruins in Venezuela. That was part of the show he was watching. And he called me. He said, "Wayne, you're not going to believe it. They talked about LiDAR on TV." I was like, "Wow, are you serious?" I know it's coming. Well, in Egypt, the archaeologists in Egypt used LiDAR. And believe it or not, they found 200 more pyramids in Egypt that they didn't know existed because of LiDAR. So I think I made my point. It's really kind of a cool technique. And this is why people don't want to talk about it, because it's so cool. This is a LiDAR map. Now, I'm not going to say this is like, there's no magic here, guys or girls. There's no magic. There's a learning curve here. There's a serious learning curve, okay? My buddy took me under his wing with this because we were buddies, all right? And he taught me, like, I would call it LiDAR 101, and just to get me started. And he's been so proud of me, and it makes me proud, because he said, "Wayne, you've really taken it to another level." And I've tried to, but it's an enormous amount of time to learn this, because what you have here, this is a split screen, okay? They call it a swipe layer. So this little lever here, if you can see my mouse, you can move that back and forth. It's like a window blind. You can move it back and forth. And what you got is the terrain here. And then you have it moving back and forth to show the terrain or to show you the LiDAR representation. Now, when I do this, these are the base map galleries. So you have layers. Again, it's that layer concept. So I'll throw you a little tip. It took me a while to find out. My favorite one, if I use it, is the imagery with labels. Because if you go back, I like to look at things. I like to have highways listed. I like to know where things are so I can do a frame of reference. Because if I'm going to investigate these afterwards, I want to know where I'm going, obviously. Now, this will also, there's features of this. I could spend all night just on this, all right? And I'm just giving you a taste of it to hopefully stimulate your interest. But there's a lot to this. This is not a one evening deal. But the whole thing with this is you can find a location, and I believe I have a slide. I think I added one. And then you can mark that location. So you can put a GPS coordinate on it. And that's the key, because now you know where you're going to go. Just to drive around, like I said, people just drive around looking stuff. You're not finding. You're going to find stuff, but it's not going to be something unique. Maybe you to really find something that's out in the wilderness, and this works best in thick wilderness forest. Works really, really good. And I like the imagery with labels. All of these, I've played around with them. They all have purposes. Topographic is partly popular. Terrain with labels is popular. I'm not telling you what to do. It's just what I used. I like that when it first comes up, it's this light green canvas. It looks beautiful. I did give you one. All right. Picture perfect. Sets of stone walls, 2 clear cellar holes, top and bottom of the yellow circle. So I just highlighted it to make it easier for you to see it. Here's a road that runs through. It's probably a current road. I'm assuming that's not an old wagon road. In this case, it's probably a current road. But if you notice here, there's these lines here represent stone walls. So when that laser hit this field, what happens was it was bouncing off of these stone walls, and it made just rough structures here. So this is pasture. This is all probably either pasture land, or it was, I haven't looked at the stone walls to tell if they harbored animals in here, if it was pens for animals, or it was crops. Again, you'd have to analyze the walls to see really how it was used. But what I was looking at is up here. If you can see my mouse right here, you see this dark area that's like almost like a perfect little square. You see 2 dark lines. That's a cellar hole. And that's what they look like on LiDAR. So you can see where you really need your eyes to get accustomed to reading this. It's not an easy task necessarily, but when you see one and you get used to seeing them, that's pretty cool. My buddy, who I believe is my mentor and expert at this, he's gotten to the point where he doesn't even need the walls there to find them. He can tell by the way it looks in the LiDAR picture if that was a house site or not, even without walls. Because what happened is a lot of these old cellar holes, stones were premium, right? So if they could reuse them, a lot of times they would. So a cellar hole might only be like a little depression in the ground. It may not have any walls in it. My friend Cliff that found those inkwells, he found them at a cellar hole that had no walls. There were a few scattered rocks around it that were kind of like misplaced. So that's what gave the clue to us that, there was probably something there at one time, but there was no cellar walls there now. Same thing here. We're a little bit lucky here because this is like I call like a picture perfect cellar hole. And if you look down here, there's another structure that I would investigate because it looks like a solid wall, not as nicely squared up as that, but there's definitely something here. And this might be a chimney. It might be a side chimney. If you really get good at this, you can tell center chimney versus side chimney, so you can get an idea of what the structure is. So I don't know if you've never seen this before, you're probably saying, "Oh my God, why, give me this? I want this because this is going to help me." If you're using this, you're probably saying, "Wayne, why are you telling people this?" Okay. All right. Move on. Another thing that people like to do, historic aerials, and I love this too. I'm going to give you a case study on this so you can see how this works. Historic aerials. You can go, there's a lot of different ones. I tend to use the one in Connecticut, and I'll show you. This is Connecticut's, and this is kind of neat. I'll just explain. Each one of these, you see the outline of Connecticut. It's perfectly outlined. If you've never been to Connecticut, this is the shape of our state. But you notice that there's all like little orange dots here. They're all scattered across. And what either, in this case, it was been a plane, a very simple prop plane, flew up and down and up and down and up and down or crisscross and took pictures. And they either took pictures at 8,000 feet elevation or 35,000 feet elevation. Because what happens is, just how the plane was flying, but you get better resolution. In other words, it's clearer detail if you're lower. So my tip to you here is that if you're looking at aerial maps, if you pick the higher ones at 35,000 feet, it covers a broader area. So that there's some use to that if you want to cover a big area real quickly. But if you're serious about covering an area in detail, then you want to go with the 8,000 foot maps because those maps are going to be closer. And as I'll show you, when you blow these maps up, when you blow them up, having that resolution stay sharp allows you to see more. And I'll show you an example. So this is the thing. On the side here, you see the layers. These are all the layers. These are the photographs from 1934. And then if you click the boxes, you can show 51, 51 all the way up, and it goes down. You can scroll down. It goes like into the 90s, I believe. They continued to do this. Then the airplanes were substituted with satellites. So now you have satellite Google Earth and those kinds of things. So it's a little bit different now. But if you're thinking what I'm thinking, then I'm going to go to the oldest map, 1934, and let's see what's there. So let's do it. So we go to 1934. So I'm giving you one of my sites, okay? It's not that I'm giving it to you. It's public property, but it has a story for it and a nice case that goes with it. So I want to present it as a case. So I know that I've done a lot of research in this area prior to it. That is Red Cedar Lake, okay? This is where it's located in the U.S. And I know from my research that there was a private boys camp at this location. And I wanted to learn more about where on that location that boys camp was. So I went to the Air Photo 1934, and you notice that you do a search, and it pinned that point right there for me. So this is the exact point of Red Cedar Lake. Behind this little key here, you'll notice there's a lake. There's the lake. And then you see the dots. These dots on that other pictures were all the ones that we saw all lined up. And this is the exact location, the GPS location, where that photograph was taken. Now, these photographs are taken so that they overlap by about 50%. So if you miss one on one, you can pick it up on the other, and there's probably others on this side. But I knew that this point was going to be closest to where I believed the camp to be, and the camp was behind where this index is here. Now, just a point. It says download, download, download. You have to actually scroll all the way down to get to that. The first time I said, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, I don't see how to get the map. Well, you scroll all the way down, and the maps are down at the bottom, and they have JPEGs, PGNs, and TIFFs. I'll use whatever works. Sometimes you click on one that doesn't work, so I pick the one that works.
Wayne,
Yes.
you have a question there. Are you using the paid version on that?
No, this is all free. This is all public.
Oh,
There's nothing. There's no paid. This is totally free. You just got to know where to go to get it for free. That's all. If anyone's, I'm not hiding this, I'll give you the link for it. I don't want to digress to the internet now to do the search for it, but this is totally free, Larry, totally free.
okay.
So I just saved you a little bit of time, but I was going to put a picture in here without this label. And my question to you is going to be, in this picture of the lake, this is black and white, obviously, picture of the lake, can you isolate for me where the waterfront was for the boys camp? And if you first look at this without the yellow ring and you see there's a lot of shoreline here, oh my God, where is this place? It's kind of hard to see. But now that I focused your eye right on here, you see that yellow circle, see that little L-shaped structure right there? That's man-made. That's the piers that were there in 1934 that are being, photographed at 8,000 feet. And you can see now this is where the pier is, and this is where the waterfront was for that boys' camp. I have a little side story for this one. What are we doing for time, Larry? Am I okay to still talk, or you want me to?
We're okay. We're at 2 hours, but people are getting some good value here. So,
all right, I'll continue. I'm about 2/3 of the way done here, but if people are interested, stay on. If you're not, I respect your time. Do what you got to do. I guess it's going to be recorded. You can come back with your favorite beverage another day and watch this. But here we go. So anyway, just a quick story then. I found this. I spent a lot of time finding this, and other people have found it too. It's not like anything, just unique to me. But I shared it with some people, and they went without me, and that's not ethically not cool. All right, like you do the work and someone like hijacks it. I call it hijacking or leeching. I don't think that's cool. But they went looking for the waterfront, but unfortunately they didn't talk to me. So they found a different waterfront, which was not the waterfront. So they didn't find anything. So like I said, karma's a bitch, and sometimes it comes back and bites you. So anyway, that's my shout out to them not to do it without me. Now here we go. This is kind of cool. I give you 2 images here. I try to blow it up a little bit, and then you can see it gets fuzzy as you blow it up. But I blew it up for a specific reason. Like when I do this, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll print this out. And then I'll get a magnifying glass. My favorite fictional character is Sherlock Holmes, so I always picture myself like with this like little magnifying glass because I love that stuff. And I printed it out. And what I'm going to ask you to do is you look at this picture, which is the same picture. It's just lower magnification, and then this picture. And I want you to tell me, where is the ball field, Larry? Where's the ball field?
Well, I see a square that's just about center, but it's right of center.
Okay, like at 1 o'clock?
Down a little bit. Down right there.
Oh, cool. All right. Good eye, Larry. Good eye.
Was that it?
Well, no, but it's a good eye, Larry. It's a good eye because what you found was a tennis court. Oh. You see the lines right here? And you got the rectangle. You picked that up. That's awesome. That's really good, Larry. You got the lines, and you can see this is a tennis court. It's a rectangular. Okay. The only thing this is 1934, don't forget. In 1934, this tennis court was still being used. They had lighting around it. They actually brought in electricity. This was a road that came here, and there's actually the remnants of a road that still goes up to it. It's got like hard pack. The actual ball field is up here, right about 1 o'clock. And you can see that it looks like a diamond, and you can see the mound in the middle. That's the ballpark. And now that you notice that, you see like this is the playing field out all over here. So now I know from this map, 1934, I know where the ball field was. I know where the tennis court is, just from this map. Now, let me bring your eyes to something else. And once your eyes focus, you'll see this stuff. Initially, you may not see it because it kind of looks like a big blur. Go over here. You'll see that there's 4 buildings. Can you see them? The little square or rectangular buildings? This is where they stayed. This is their cabins. There's no concrete here, so LiDAR is not going to help you here. This is what I'm saying. Not one tool is good for everything. The only thing that's left here are the steps made out of concrete. These cabins are all gone. But you notice something in front of them? No trees. There's a playing field in front of them. So kids played here. They lost stuff here. All right. So this is a really good area to hunt. So again, I'm trying to help you put odds in your favor. This is going to put odds in your favor. This is going to find something. And then again, now I'm going to point out something else you may not see readily. Right here, you'll see this long rectangle. And then you see the rectangle, that straight line continues down here. It's super long. It's like equal to all 4 of these houses all lined up together. That's the recreation hall. This structure right here is the chimney from their fireplace. That's how they heated the place. This camp, Larry, I could do a show on this camp, okay? So I'm going to cut it shorter. But this was the recreation hall. This camp, the boys' camp, one of the things they favored was to make the kids that camped there, and these were very affluent kids from all over the place, but a lot of them from out of state. And they came here, and they wanted them to teach more than just camping. They also wanted them to teach arts and things like that, like the theater. And so this was a big theater at one time. Right in front of this is the other beach. Okay, that's where my friends went, or my old friends went. They went here, and this is where they hit it. And it was a beach, but it wasn't the waterfront. All right, this is what it looks like today. Oh my God!
Oh.
All right, so 1934 today, unbelievable. Okay, so if someone was just using like Google Maps today, nope, it's not going to work. You got this little halo over here. It's a little patch in the forest, but it's still not going to work. This is the map that the state provides you. It's a free map from the state. I have 2 comments about the map. It's nice that they provide it. It gives you hiking trails. That's the purpose of this, is so you can know where to hike. This is the lake itself. This is the only parking area for the lake. So, you can park here and then you can go through the trails and everything. It's real fun. It's like 400 acres, maybe. It's a pretty big area. So it's really kind of cool. And there's a couple islands out here. There's another story I'll tell you. The islands are also part of the campground. So the kids went out to the island. So I'm going to put my kayak in here and I'm going to row out to this. I'm going to paddle out to this island and I'm going to detect that island, because that's not easy to do. So chances are people haven't hit it as well. And again, if it's real easily accessible, it's going to get hit hard. This park, I'm not giving anybody anything with this park. Moline State Park, I'm not giving you anything. It's been hit so many times. You're going to have to really, hit it hard to get stuff, but it's still stuff there. The only good news I can tell you guys is that I probably dug up all the shotgun shells for you already, so it's a little cleaner. All right, so this is my favorite time, okay? Plant the fields right after they've been harrowed or deep plowed, because now you're turning up like new stuff, all kinds of stuff is coming up. But I can tell you the average person doesn't hit this field properly, and I'm not insulting you and trying to. It's just that you got to think about it for a second. And no names. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, I got a permission. I got a farm field. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, how big is it? Oh, it's like 300 acres, 600 acres. It's like, wow. And then you could spend your life walking that field. So like, not that I would discourage you from spending your life walking this field, because it might be a lot of fun and you might find some cool stuff and you might find some arrowheads. Remember, time is premium. And I feel like I might be wasting your time if I keep talking, but time is premium. And the thing is, make the best of your time. So if I can go to a field like this and I can isolate and research a part of that field that's going to be more productive, then that's where you want to be. And there's very famous YouTube detectors out there. It's funny because I'm new to all this stuff. Like, nobody knows me for sure, and I don't know even the celebrities. I didn't know Larry until last week, and then you're a famous guy. So it's like, the thing is, I'm a nobody. But this lady,
I wouldn't say that at all.
This lady, this kind of funny because this lady who is well known, and you'd recognize her picture, and you'd see her video. She says, "I hate doing fields," and she's probably right, because if you just walk the field, it's going to be useless. But she changed her opinion, because when you watch her video, she changes her opinion towards the end, because she went out with somebody that knew how to read a field. And recently, a new friend of mine, she had done a field, and she posted a really cool video about it. And I got really excited because I was watching this video, and it showed like a cemetery going in, and that brought up ideas about doing the perimeter. And then it was like fields and woods, and then it ended up at a river. So then I'm thinking, well, people probably swam in that river. So I said, I know, not for nothing, I'm not going to go up to your neck of the woods and detect it. I promise you. But can you just tell me the location? Because I want to research it for you. And I just want to prove a point. So she gave me the location. She said, thank you. And I researched. I actually spent all night. I stayed up all night because I was going to meet with her the next day, and I wanted to have something for her. And I researched that field, and I found the remnants, using all these techniques. I found the remnants of a barn, an old foundation that was out in the woods there, in the wooded area that you would not normally have seen, because the barn doesn't exist anymore. The only thing left is a remnants of the foundation. And you can use LiDAR to find foundations. That's true. And I commonly use it around here in New England. Cellar holes are very apparent in it. But you can also use like the historic aerials, if that's all you have, you can use the historic aerials because the foundations do implant on the ground, and a lot of times it will prevent crops from growing. So you see outlines. The problem is that they don't often look rectangular. They might look oval shaped or kind of like dispersed, because every time they plow it, they break up, the soil a little bit, so it changes over time. But if you know what you're looking at, you can see like darkening in the soil. You can see some hints that there's something there. So even if you don't have LiDAR, you can still use some of these other techniques to help you out. And unfortunately with LiDAR, and just I'm back to that, but with LiDAR, I know LiDAR for Connecticut really well because I use it all the time. But my challenge was learning it for other states. And as I start learning the New England states for different clients and people, I'm finding that different states have different LiDAR software. So it's almost like a learning curve to learn their software. It would be nice if everyone used the same LiDAR software, so you only had to learn one and then you can just apply it. The principle is the same. So if once you learn one, you can probably translate it. It took me a little while to translate it to the other state. But I hate to discourage you, but not every state has LiDAR. And some states, when you go to look for it, it's only partial. You see partial LiDAR. So it's a bummer, because I had a friend, he said, Wayne, I want to use the stuff you showed me and you taught me. And he said, I went in and guess what? The LiDAR stopped before my area that I wanted to hunt. So he's like, so sad. And I said, don't give up the ship, because you got other stuff. You can use the historic maps. You can use the aerials. Don't give up. It's just, it's one more roadblock. It's not, that just isn't the right tool for you. All right, I'm going to go quickly through this because I'm preaching to the choir here. Private property, don't do it. All right, don't detect private property. Get permissions. We're seeing too many of these signs, and I'm doing this shout out for a friend because he's been adamant about this, because we're going out and we're finding people, and I don't blame any of your listeners, but there's people going out not covering their holes, and they're leaving holes, they're leaving garbage on the surface, and more because of that, people are getting these signs posted: don't detect, no detecting. Fines. There's a place here that says $1,000 fine you get caught detecting, and that's not even a National Historic Park. It's just a park that they don't want you in there. So follow the code of ethics. I can't tell you, everyone has their code, but they have a really well written one, FMDAC. If you're not sure what that is, just go to FMDAC and check that out. This guy deserved to get pinched. I covered his eyes because someone told me he recognized the guy, so I covered his eyes. I don't want to give his identity, but he deserves to get pinched and fined or jailed, because you don't go in battlefields, National Historic battlefields. They're off limits. So I won't help people that are planning to do that. So don't even come to me. All right, I won't help you. This is just funny. I just put this in because a lot of you have seen this. The guy digs 12-foot deep hole without realizing his metal detector was picking up his steel-toed cap safety boots. What an idiot. But it's just, I covered his eyes, but he's not an idiot. All right. It's a mistake. I've had it happen where I forgot my boots on and I'm like, my detector's not working right. What's going on? There's something wrong with the coil. And then like an idiot, I look down and I got my steel toe shoes on. Yeah, that's not going to work. I had a guy just recently, I'm a hunt master. Okay. I set up the hunts for my clubs. And one of the things I do is I like to do that even more than detecting. I have more fun hiding stuff. So I planted all this stuff, like really cool. It's a pirate hunt. But what ended up happening, this one guy, like people are finding stuff, and that's what I wanted. But this one guy's not finding stuff. And I was like, what's up? And he came over to me and said, Wayne, I put my steel-toed boots on today. I'm getting all these messed up signals. So I was like, oh, man, just take your shoes off. Go barefoot. It's sand. You can do it. All right, safety first. As I said, I don't lone wolf it, not normally. There was a time in my life I maybe did it, but and there are people, men and women, that do it, and there is solitude to be found out in the woods and by yourself, and I totally respect that and get that totally. But just in my perspective now, I like to have someone have my back. Like if I'm out in the woods, say I get hurt or I twist an ankle, I got to get out of those woods. I pack accordingly, and that's a whole nother lecture on how to pack. But I feel better when I have someone with me, and it's just like you can't rely on cell phones. The places I go, you may not have cell phone reception. It's not available, so you're going to be really kind of stuck. So having a person with you, and that's my 2 cents. It makes sense. That's a good thing. And then you also have something to share with somebody, and it's cool to be able to share it on the spot. I had one friend. He used to go out and he used to take pictures as he found stuff and send it text message to his friends. And I thought that was like a tease. That was kind of nasty because he's like, oh, you couldn't be with me, but I'm finding all this cool stuff. That's not That's not cool. It's better to be with somebody and share. You know, like I said, it's not about just the fines. You're not going to get rich doing this. No, you could, if you get lucky, like win the lottery, but you're not going to get a $10,000 button every day. These guys, I just want to give a quick shout out because I told them, and they're out there. Hopefully, I didn't put them to sleep yet. What's more important than the treasures, finds, or excitement of detecting is the memories and friendships along these paths. These are some of the people I've hunted with and I had the honor of hunting with, and they're some of the best I believe that are out there. These guys are part of our crew. I call it crew because I use that pirate theme all the time. But at a Virgin BSA camp, found them with my research. And tune out to me on this one because I wanted to find a Boy Scout camp because I'm into Scouts. I was. And I wanted to try to find one that wasn't hit before or hadn't been hit. It was just different. And I came across this one, and I could have just gone alone. And in fact, my sons are saying, Dad, why don't you go check it out alone? It looks good. I said, no, I'm going to have more fun with my crew. So I brought everybody, and I promised, I told the guys, you know, some days I hit it, some days I don't. I don't guarantee. I can't guarantee anything, and I can't find it for you, but these guys killed it that day. If you look at this truck bed that's here, my mouse is working. The truck bed is covered in coins. And we're talking about, this is a 1906, like early 1900s camp. It obviously had not been detected only because the field, the main field, the salute field with the flag field, had just so many coins. It was too much. Tokens, coins, silver, Indians, Wheaties. It had everything. So everybody got their share. Even Dan got a cool copper bracelet in the woods there. So it was a really great day. And it's very rare, as you know, to find any site today that's virgin. So this was a special moment, and that's why everyone's so smiling and happy. These two guys are my recent buddies. Frank, I know back 35 years when I first came. Frank's been doing this 49 years. Rich has been doing it 29 years because I asked him today. I didn't have as nice of pictures in my last presentation, so I found these. I thought it was funny. Frank is probably laughing behind this mask. He has to wear the mask, and if his wife is listening, I'm probably going to get in trouble. But his wife makes him wear the mask out there, and I get that, and it's cool. And he wears his mask, so I just wanted to show that for him and for his wife. Rich, same thing. Rich is a nice guy because he's very humble, but he's very, very quiet. So sometimes I don't know what he's thinking because he's so quiet, but he's also like so knowledgeable. And if you ask him questions, like he knows so much. Like I bought a new detector and I was on the beach with these guys. And you can see like these are hardcore guys. They're dressed for winter and it's winter on the beach. And I was having trouble with my detector. And like, you use the standard settings, like beach mode and all that. And I wasn't having good luck. And these guys are killing it, rings and all kinds of stuff. So I asked him, I said, what are you doing? And he told me exactly what to do. And my detecting on that beach and after that changed 100% turnover because he just shared with me like a few settings to change that would work on my detector. And I thank you, Rich. And that's why I'm getting a shout out because you're an awesome guy. Frank, you're an awesome guy. Thank you for being here. My brother from a different mother, Andy, our president, I hope I didn't put him to sleep. He's the one that's funny because before this, he said, Wayne, don't talk too long because you're going to talk along and people are going to get disinterested. So if you get disinterested, I'm sorry. I apologize. And you can always just hang up and go do what you got to do. But he's the guy that gave me this pirate name, okay? Like talking about me being a pirate. So in retrospect, this is a payback, Andy. Karma's a bitch. I photoshopped you into Johnny Depp's picture here. So it's Captain Andy. But he's one of the best detectors I know. This guy is just one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's like so versed in so many different things. He's like the jack of all trades. Any topic, I mean anything. He's also pretty famous in detecting world. He's gotten like many awards. He's been on TV. He was involved in hunting for Captain Kidd's treasure. This guy he's a serious detectorist, and I like to call him he's a friend. These are some of my friends over the years. Seth on the side. This is the guy I've been talking about. Seth and I have known each other for 30 years. He's the most humble, enthusiastic guy I ever met. You find a nail, this guy gets like so excited. He said, awesome. And it's like, wow, it's a nail. But you can figure out how old this place is from that nail. And if it's one less nail hiding or masking something good underneath. And his style of detecting is like so different than anyone else's. He is so meticulous. He goes like, they tell you to overlap your sweeps and your coils and like go really, really slow. And most people still don't listen to that. This guy does. And his results show it. Okay. He's the one that got the 2 reels in Haddam Meadow State Park. We actually named the park after him after that because he's just like crazy good. this guy on the right, he's a bud. He's a more recent friend of mine. One of the smartest people I know, sharp as anything, quick to pick up stuff, and he's proved it. You know, his record shows it. You know, he came into detecting only a few years ago, relatively new detectorist, and he's won Detectorist of the Year, I think, you know, several times. So he's doing something right. And he came in with like an entry-level detector, and he still won Detectors of the Year. So it's not just about the detector; it's also about knowing what you're doing. And he's also meticulous, and he's helping me out. So shout out to Dan, because I'm trying to do a sticker, because everyone I heard has stickers. I don't have a sticker, so he's an artist, and he did the pirate logo. If you saw at the beginning of our club, he did that, and that was like awesome. So he's an amazing guy. So thank you. And I just found out his daughter joined my group, and his daughter's got like 10,000 members. I thought I was doing good with it, or getting close to 100. She's got like 10,000 members in her group. She's like a web wizard. This is just a fun on Dan. Dan found like several coppers along one wall. So it's like, we were like, Dan, you're like amazing. So I photoshopped Dan's wall into this. And Seth, Hannah Meadows, I made it Seth Eddy State Park. So we had some fun with him. These are my more recent friends too. Big shout out to Joe. I don't think he's here tonight, because he's in Florida detecting with a bunch of people. I'm envious of you, Joe. He's got like the longest shaft on his detector that I've ever seen, and this like exaggerates it. He was teasing me because I brought my old Technetics with me. He says, "Wayne, get a real machine." And no insult intended for Technetics users. I love them. I have them, and I almost bought a T2 recently. This machine is an awesome Relic machine, but it's not as good. I haven't found as good luck with it with some other stuff. But for this day, I brought it and I had fun with it. I had fun. Right behind us, where you're looking, that little pine tree, I got my first Civil War button at that tree. And you know I like buttons. So I got a Civil War button right on that tree. What was that doing in the middle? This is an old scout camp. What was it doing there? No idea. And these other guys, they found other stuff like modern silver. I got some ox knobs here. So this had really a lot of promise. You can't see it here, but there's a beam here, this hedge. I wish I had a picture on here just to show you. This guy he's a contractor, and he's dug up all these old mill sites. He's purchased the stones that they used to grind the mill. They're like 6 feet across, round stones, and he's got them all lined up on this hill. And he sells them for big bucks to decorate yards in New York. The guy on the right, so the guy in the middle is Joe Hollywood Joe. Some of you guys know him. He's a popular celebrity. He's with Ambient, Nancy Ambient Girl Diggs, who gave me the break, and that's the thank you I give him, because that was the first place I ever spoke on the internet for metal detecting. So a big shout out to Joe and the Copperheads. I'm so grateful for you introducing me to Ambient Girl. And I heard she was out there with Larry. I hope she's still there, and I put her to sleep.
She's here with us. She's been here the whole time.
Yeah, Nancy's probably getting close to your bedtime. So thanks for staying
awesome.
up with me. Thanks for staying up with me. What an honor, Nancy, to be on your show and meet you personally and call you a friend. I can't wait to swing with you someday and detect. I think it'll be awesome. John, the guy on the right, I don't know if he's out there. I've had a hard time reaching him, but he's in a different part of the state right now. John, you're the best. You're kind. You're thoughtful. I'm eternally grateful for you, because you connected me with an archaeologist team. And I told you, I'm in a different phase of my career right now. I'm giving back now. I want to give back. And I look forward to hunting together with you and getting to know you even better during our future archaeological digs. So we've lined up working with some archaeologists who appreciate metal detectors. I wrote a nice letter. I thought it was a nice letter to one of the guys, archaeologists, and thanking him for recognizing detectors have a role. And he wrote back and he said, we really need you guys. And if you're interested, let me know, and we'll get you involved in some future projects. So shout out to my friends and people that know me. If you want to get involved, I'll get you involved. And obviously, Larry, you look awesome in this picture, Larry. You're like the man in this picture. I look like this. I don't know what I look like. I got my little simplex hat on and my puffy cheeks. The only thing I can tell you is I lost a little bit of weight since then. But thanks for giving me. And you created this for me, Larry. I can't thank you enough. You're like crazy good. So I hope you're feeling like I am. I feel good about sharing this with you. I hope I didn't insult anybody who got people upset with me for sharing some of this stuff, but I honestly think it's a game changer. One of my favorite teaching quotes is philosophies in general. I tell all my classes this, is you give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. You teach them for fish and you feed them for life, because I love fishing, but you get the analogy here. In metal detecting terms, You give a person, and I've done this, you give a person a site, you make them happy for a day. You teach them how to research to find their own sites and give them a game changer experience. Then you give them something for life. And that's what I'm trying to do for you guys.
Exactly.
So seriously, where do we go from here? I'm in the process of developing a series of online personalized courses. This is my infomercial now, okay? Game-changing researching techniques. There's nothing I've said to you tonight that you can't do on your own. So I wish you the best. You don't need me. If you do want me, this is for you, all right? I got two options. I'm still going to consult and offer research for people not inclined. If you have no interest to do this, all you want to do is swing, I'll help you out, okay? The other option is for those people wanting to learn the techniques. In other words, you don't want me to give you the sites. You want to find them yourself. But maybe you need some help refining your techniques. And I admire people that even, use the historic maps and the historic aerials and all that stuff. That's cool. That's better than the person that just drives by and randomly hits the schoolyard because the sign said 1932 and I'm going to find stuff. They put no effort. But I always say to people, my students, I tell them this day one, you get out of a class or you get out of something what you're willing to put in. You put in the time, you're going to be rewarded. The same thing with detecting. So my takeaway for Google and search engines, I said this before, you really need to use some advanced techniques. Look up, you're all capable of doing it. Boolean searching, truncation, all this stuff I talked about. You can figure it out if you really want to spend the time or you have me teach it. I'm gonna do a session, like another session like this on teaching this. And that's my business part. This is my entrepreneurial venture because I don't think anyone's doing this. And if I can help people, I guess. My best guess is that most people don't use these techniques. A new course offering. I mentioned I was going to announce it on your show, Larry. I hope you don't mind me doing a little infomercial here.
No, that's fine.
This is online custom course because I don't use this StreamYard. Larry knows this. I learned it last week for the first time, and he made me a co-host today, and I was honored to do that. But it's a very powerful tool, the StreamYard, and I like it. And it's actually there's a version that's free. So, I've been playing around with it just to learn it, just so I could do it justice for Larry here today. But I normally use Zoom because that's the academic management tool that I use. And with Zoom, I can offer courses through Zoom. Online courses because I don't think I'm going to be able to come to you and do it in the classroom setting. And this was actually designed to be like a one-on-one personalized training. So that's the way I'm imagining this to be. And I'm seeing it as a series of courses, one on the stuff that I talked to you about today, one focusing on this searching techniques, particularly using Google to the max, because I think right now it's like Google 101, but there's a lot more that can be done with that. Future, looking at some advanced mapping techniques, and these are nothing magical. Earth maps, USGS, Sanborn maps, which are kind of cool. Those are insurance maps that are very helpful. Plat maps, which might be local. The historic maps I mentioned, historic aerials, all this stuff. So packaging something together on that. Because of the scope of it and the learning curve associated with it, I'm imagining LiDAR is going to be a separate one. And I'm actually held off on this a little bit because I really don't want to get people upset. If I teach the technique to people, then everyone's going to be hammering these new cellar holes or going on to other people's cellar holes. But, my thinking on that is if they research it and they earn it, good for them. It keeps the competition. And in fact, it levels the playing field a little bit because you got guys and gals coming in and they're killing it at the monthly fines. And they're not telling you, but they're using this stuff. I know they are. They're not fooling me. I know they are. So why not level the playing field a little bit here? And I'm cool with that. But, I'm going to have, if I'm going to teach people this, it's I think, a game-changing thing. It's a time saver. That's the business part of it. Metal detecting apps, I'll just do this for fun. A review of the most useful apps. I'm curious, like on my group site, if you guys join it, I'm looking at doing like app sharing. Like we could talk about apps before you go spend money. I'm pretty frugal normally. I like gadgets, so that's true. But with apps, I very seldom buy an app unless I check out the free version first. And I've got a bunch of apps. And with my group site, we're going to be talking about that. On my group site, this is my shout out to my group site. I'm going to also be doing case studies like I did with you with Hannah Meadows and image analysis and stuff like techniques. I'm going to be giving you stuff. But I'm not making it a business part of it. You know, I'm doing it just to be, give back, because I appreciate you joining my group. So thanks everyone for attending tonight. I'm kind of wrapping it up. Hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sharing it with you. I wish I could see you. I'm just looking at my screen. I don't even know if I'm looking right. Please check out my Facebook group and email me if I can be of service. I hope to be offering the presentation soon to other streams or people if you're interested. Coil to the soil, or sand I added for the beach guys or gals. Whatever floats your pirate boat, okay? I had my little pirate patch and I didn't put it on today. I was going to fool Andy with my little pirate patch. But Professor Wayne, QR code, I love these things. You create them. It's free app. It's kind of like it's free. I like the price. So if you take your phone right now and if you're interested, you hold your phone to that screen. It should register my email. Or if you just want to do it the old-fashioned way, it's WADetectForYou@gmail as a way to reach me. So I hope to even just chat, converse. I've had people pick my brain, and picking my brain is free. Questions are free. That's all cool. This is the QR code for my Facebook group. You can tell it's got the little F in it. Facebook group is called Metal Detecting Game Changer. Hopefully I made some of you feel like there is some game changing that can be done. And my final slide, and thank you for Larry, particularly, and all of you that stayed through all this part. For the last slide, and the special thanks is to my wife, beautiful woman. You're patient with me. You're sitting next to me right now, and the support you gave me through all of my crazy endeavors through the years. Married, 2 children. I love you. Also nice to see that you enjoy sea glass hunting, and together we do a lot of walks on the beach. And when I detect, it's funny because every time I go detecting the beach, I always look down on the beach looking for sea glass. So I try to bring her some samples home, but it's more fun when I'm with her to walk on the beach. And thank you for letting me use your scrapbook table tonight, because this is my home office right now is what it is. This picture is at the end of my street, so people are going to ask me like, Wayne, why in the hell are you detecting in the forest and the deep woods when you have this at the end of your street? Well, this has been hammered pretty hard over the years, and it is beautiful. And maybe this will be my year for fishing and for detecting on the beaches too. I just got a detector, and it's funny because the only reason I bought this detector, I don't need another one, is that it was called a Pirate Pro. And when I saw that pirate insignia, I had to buy it just to bust Andy up because I thought it was like the coolest thing. And I'm loving this detector. It's not like this high-end Excalibur or anything fancy, but it does its job, and I have fun. And just to share with you, tie it in with this, I've researched this beach, and this beach goes back to 1932. And at the end of this beach is the original beach, and the hurricanes did a job on that. And I pulled some really, really old coins out of that beach. So you would expect recent finds. It's a private beach. It's not like a big population of people go here. So it's not like you're going to find a lot. But it was kind of cool to research it and find out that at the end, the original beach is not there anymore. It's just rock. And we're finding some really cool stuff. And I've had a bunch of my buddies down here. And you have the best sunsets ever down here. So that's it, Larry. That's it for me.
Well, Wayne, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge here. I'm learning things here, and I'm definitely going to be digging in a little bit more, getting on some of these sites and teaching myself how to use some of these techniques that you've shown. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys that has showed up here today. It's you.
This is the first time I get to act in front of the camera.
You get to see us now? Do you see us now?
I'm actually seeing people.
Hey, Larry, all right. Well, Larry, we got comments here and everything, and we've had a great audience come in here. And Ambient Girl Diggs, I'll tell you what, girl, you are awesome. You're just absolutely awesome, and I truly appreciate you. You've just been a tremendous help here. She's been interacting with our viewers here tonight, and just been great. So you guys, if you get a chance, I really highly recommend that you hop on over to Wayne's Facebook page there, and if you need some help with your research or something, he's the man to help you. So yeah, just and yeah, he'll lead you to that pirate treasure. But you got to get your coil over it.
I'm gonna give you one more thing, Larry.
Okay.
I'm working with one of my buddies, and we're planning to do this fall of 22. If things settle down, an actual pirate hunt up here in Connecticut. So I invite all your friends or listeners that want to make a little trip, and I'm going to make it worth your while because I'm going to bury pirate chests out there, and we're going to have some fun. And
wow.
I've done it for both of my clubs, and one of the clubs got so into it, like everyone was dressed up in pirate costumes, and it was like really a great time. And I'm hoping to make that widespread. So I'll get the word out to you when you're doing it, and maybe you can share it with people. I know not everyone wants to come to Connecticut, but if you do, I'll make it worth your while.
Great. That sounds like a lot of fun. But all right, you guys. Well, like I say, here's his Ambient Girl Digs just posted the Facebook group there, so feel free to hop on there and join that group on Facebook. And he's always posting valuable information there.
Thank you, Ambient. You're the best. You gave me a break. You gave me a break on your show, and Larry, you didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And I respect you so much, Larry. It's like you're like one of those idol guys out there. So thank you.
well, thank you, and
congratulations on all your successes, Larry. I know you've worked hard for where you are, and you followed that work ethic that I told you about. You work hard, you get rewarded. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're the man.
So, I appreciate all of you, and I couldn't do it without these great people here that have subscribed to my channel. They followed me. I've learned from them in many ways. I've made some great friends on this, through the YouTube journey in building this channel. So I'm truly grateful to each and every one of them. So, and as always, we do these live streams every Friday is what we've been shooting for at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. And just trying to provide every bit of value that we can for you. If you have any suggestions at all of any topics that you would like us to do here on the channel, feel free to give us a holler and anything that's research or metal detecting related, metal detecting equipment. Dan wasn't able to make it in this live stream tonight. He got busy and wasn't able to make it. But like I say, if you need any metal detecting supplies, feel free to get a hold of outlawmetaldetectors.com. And don't forget about that Equinox promotion that's going on right now, that you get the free pinpointer with that. So it's a really good pinpointer. You'll be able to score on that purchase right there. So anyway, I thank you all. I wish you a very good night. Be safe out there in your metal detecting adventures, and we'll definitely be seeing you down the road next week. And thanks again. And thank you again, Wayne. I appreciate you. I really do. That was a great show.
Thank you. Do you want me to stay on, or you want? I don't know.
No, I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're going to call it a night now. And
and I'll talk to you soon.
Unless anybody has any questions for you or anything like that, we've got 58 people that are still in the chat right now. And by the way, Nancy had posted earlier that you cleared 100 people and 100 members in your group now. So I'm not sure where that's at right now, but you did clear the 100 mark in your Facebook group.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a milestone. That's really, really nice. Well, that's really nice. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, you bet. All right. I don't see any questions coming in at this point, but
That's okay.
I
They're probably
appreciate you
tired.
all.
Everyone's
Be
going to be
safe.
tired.
What's that?
I said everyone's going to be tired, and I'm surprised I have a voice still.
Yeah, but I got tired earlier, and I'm tired again, so that means I'm retired. So okay, you got 107 members. That's awesome.
Wow.
All right, good deal. All right, well, we'll see you next Friday. Thanks again for showing up, and be safe out there and healthy. I appreciate all of you.
Bye, Larry.
Good night.